Sounds good.
All right.
Too bad we have nothing to talk about.
I know. We kind of ran into this. It was interesting
to
see.
We can afford to save our voice.
Yeah, it's true. Save our voice. Also mentioned that an old ginger friend of the show was at the tournament this weekend.
Wasn't that something?
Yeah.
Like, apparently he said he'd played one tournament before. Was it there? Like, had he been to Dolly's before?
No, this is the first time he showed up at Dolly's. He talked to me a couple weeks ago about it, but yeah.
That's
I don't know, man.
awesome.
If he gets all hardcore, we might have to bring him back.
Right? Well, he's all like he's educating himself back up and stuff. I mean, it's always fun to see people, give the game a try again. And he knows everybody at this point. We've all got pieces that he can have and stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, and he was really good. Like we can't ignore that. Yeah. Like prior to your top two in the Rock World Cup, he was one of the higher placing guys we had. So
for sure.
Yeah,
no doubt.
All right,
early Lumin.
So as we alluded to, we're live. It's myself and Tom, just us. So it's actually probably gonna be one of the faster. Cheers to you. It's a little bit of energy drink. I almost fell asleep on my couch, so I need this.
Today it's the Breckenridge Colorado bourbon. This was a gift from not too long ago, and I'm very excited to have this accompanying me as we make our way through a very lengthy set today. So, something to kind of keep me stable.
Probably see if my wife loves me enough to get me a drink. the one that's in the door. Thanks, babe. It's Spider-Man set review. So before we go that, we did some sealed. What did we think of sealed, Tom?
I thought it was a great, fun time. I thought I pulled garbage, and I still don't think I pulled a lot of great stuff, but there just is no garbage in this set. Like, I did well, despite the fact that my team had no natural synchronicity in the ways that you usually think of. It just had other advantages. Every piece was good. Every game I had was fun. I actually think it's a really fun set for sealed. No one pulled Null. I feel like Null might be I kind of feel like Null might be a sealed breaker. But other than that, I think that the set seems to play really well within itself, and it was really fun to do.
There's a lot of permission being asked in this set. From an observance, yours was the only game that we kind of went almost the full time. My other games, when I was playing on the buy, I was able to kind of walk through and listen and kind of catch a couple things while I was playing. There's a lot of people like, can I attack that guy? And not asking like if they have the line of fire. It's shape change.
It is. Yeah, the constant rollout.
Yeah. But it was a ton of fun, and just kind of a note, I noticed the secret identity seemed to get pulled a lot with a version of a secret identity, which was a really cool part. We're going to get more depth to that in a second, though. So this is a really weird set to go and review. As we usually go figure one to the bottom. There's a few things I think we need to cover before we do that, so we're going to go a little bit off the cuff. There's a lot of kind of figures we have to revisit at times, so we're not going to fully revisit, but we're going to just mention a few things as we go. This is one of the most complex sets to kind of talk about as a whole. So
yeah, for sure. And I should also do the usual disclaimer, which is that as always, as we go through pieces, I mean, I like to kind of give it a thumbs up and a thumbs down, and every now and again a thumbs sideways. Every piece is playable. And if you just like the idea of just banging out with some pieces, they're all good. They're all casual ready. In fact, I think that in a lot of cases, this is one of the sets that has the fewest poor pieces, and the overall caliber is quite high. Yeah. And thus, you need to be that much higher if you want to get inclusion into being really considered for the larger competitive games. So, usual disclaimer is this. A thumbs up to me means it's a piece that I will consider building around or keep closely in mind as a piece to potentially use in a competitive setting. Thumbs down means that it's probably only going to find its way into the competitive setting if it happens to complement something else in an unexpected way, or it fills out points and keyword fluff that you just need to fill in the difference of, but you're not building around it. So it doesn't mean it's bad. It just doesn't mean, it means it's not the one you're reaching for. It's to start your team is the one you're reaching for to finish building your team. To me, thumbs sideways is, I don't know yet. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
That's my personal rank.
I generally try to follow the same rule, but oftentimes I talk myself in and out of whether or not I like the characters. So Sometimes it's a cold read where it's just like, you know what? No, hold on. I think better of this after you start to talk about it.
I also need to be forewarned that the first several pieces for me are probably thumbs down, so don't stop watching after the first like 5 or 6 pieces because it gets better. I think the pet set's really good. It just so happens the first few numbers aren't for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's get started with the first of the 7 objects in the set. Yes. There's 7 special objects that are packaged with a character who can use them. Some of them have multiple characters that can use them. So, that said, let's get this show on the road. Let's go to HC Realms. We're off to the corner there. And we have, to start off, the Pumpkin Bombs. It's equip any, unequip KO. Their effect is Energy Explosion with a minimum range of 4, knockback, but only during range attacks. This character can be given a range destroy actions regardless of their damage value. It's a light object. Tom, what do you think of the Pumpkin Bombs?
I mean, from a competitive perspective, I have to give it a thumbs down only because it is so similar to the already existing Incandescence Ring. The Incandescence Ring is indestructible. This one is not. They're both 5-point light objects. They're both Energy Explosion, but one of them is Penetrating. The other one gives Knockback. Both are useful, but I'll take Penetrating over Knockback. I think there's a place for both, and I love the whole range destroy despite damage value on a low point figure. So that's my little caveat. If you've got some extra points and some low damage figures, then maybe you can get some use out of it. Generally speaking, I think other things do it better.
Yeah, absolutely agree. This is going to be one of those things that it might find its way back post-rotation because I have this weird feeling the Mandarin Rings are going to go before this sect does. And if that's the case, then this might find its way back in. But before that, there are currently better options in that case. Aside from that, this comes with the rare Green Goblin, just as your heads up as to how am I going to get Pumpkin Bombs. So next up, we have the Illusion Generator. Equip any, unequip drop, effect, shape change. When this character uses it and succeeds after resolutions, generate an illusion bystander. It's a heavy object. The illusion is just a character who is autonomous, 8 movement, 10 attack with incapacitate, 16 defense with shape change. It's just an obnoxious little thing. The illusion generator for 10 points is double the price of the of 2 things that I can get that can give me shape change, and they'll give me something else as well. So ultimately, in current environment, I'd rather go with the Symbiote or the Remaker. The Bystanders are cool, but you have to get the shape change for it. So I give it a thumbs down on that same note. But again, there's a future post-rotation. We might see this come back. Tom, do you...
I very much agree. I mean, if you've got to have Bystanders and shape change, it's better to get a ring and a map bonus. Several of them give bystanders, and they're ones that you can actually reliably get. This one only gives bystanders if you happen to roll your shape change successfully. It does do something we've never seen before in an object, but that's not enough to put it over the hump of the point cost, I'm afraid.
Now, worth noting, this comes with Mysterio, and both these objects are free to use when you play those 2 characters. So
absolutely,
that does give them an extra level. But as a whole, like when we talk about bringing an Illusion Generator on the map, we're probably not doing it. Next up, we have the Dimensional Watch, which is actually packaged with 2 characters. You can either get it with Ghost Spider or Spider-Man 2099 sometimes. It's 5 points that gives you phasing teleport. When this character hits an opposing character, if no character has been placed this turn, after resolution, you may roll a d6. On a 3 to 6, place another character with the Spider-Man family, keyword adjacent. For the future of this episode, that is call and help from the Spider-Verse as a blanket. It's a light object, 5 points. What do you think, Tom, with the Dimensional Watch?
I'm going to give this one a thumbs up because it is the cheapest way to get phasing teleport on your team, and phasing teleport is the master of all movement powers. So usefulness is situational. It needs to be somebody that you really want to have phasing teleport on, but there are enough instances of maybe it's a piece that is already a taxi for you, but is potentially getting hung up on certain maps if it has a hard time getting over elevations or through walls and indoor maps and stuff. Phasing teleport absolutely has its uses. I think the Spider call and help from the Spider-Verse part is pure gravy and is only ever going to be useful because I think there's going to be a lot of Spider-Man family teams coming out of the set.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but it's still gravy. Like, to me, it's not... I never built for it, but I think 5 points phasing is worth it.
Nothing feels better than when everybody is Spider-Man family. You can bring everybody over, and there is some nonsense that can occur in this situation. So yeah, I'm going to give it a thumbs up as well, just based on what I've seen it do. All right, next up we have the Carnage symbiote. This we hypothesized that it was going to have something to do with blades, and boy, were we let down. Equip any unequip KO effect, plasticity and shape change. When this character KOs an opposing character after resolutions, heal 1 click. If that character had the codex keyword healed 3 clicks instead, it's a light object that is 10 points. This one. Again, as I said with the illusion generator, it's 6 more points than what gives it exactly the same effect. With the so for 6 points, if I KO something, I can heal. And in so many instances, there's very few where it's like, yes, I KO'd that thing. I'm so glad I'm going to heal now because I was left in a situation where I was wounded. That 1 click healing would be great. That said, there are a lot of Codex characters that kind of catch you off guard that do have some potential in the game, so that healing could really pop off. But for the most part, for point for value, I do give it a thumbs down just because of what the initial, like the reason you put it on is 6 points less somewhere else. Again, as I've said before, this might see some play when rotation occurs in the next rotation, but that's like way in the future. So, Tom, your thoughts?
I agree completely. We've talked before about the fact the Venom symbiote is undercosted, but even though that's true, it's out there. And so by comparison, this must be a thumbs down.
Yeah. Although it could be, if you look at it this way, it's the diminishing returns of getting 2 Venom symbiotes on your team. The first one costs 4, the second one costs 10.
Right. Let's go with that.
Yeah. I gave it its best shot. Next up, all black the Necro Sword, not the rugby team. Indestructible, equip any, unequip drop, effect, Giant Reach 2. When this character makes a close attack, opposing characters can't use Shape Change or Super Senses and can't reduce damage below 1. It's a heavy object that's 50 points. What do you think of all black the Necro Sword, Tom?
It's boss, man. Real good. Big thumbs up. 15 points is hefty. It's one of the most expensive special objects we have. It isn't exceeding the gauntlets or the cosmic cube, but I would say it's exceeding their usefulness by a long shot. I think it's worth every one of its 15 points. I don't need to just read out what it does because I think it's pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. There is already an absolutely enormous amount of shape change in the game, and this set only gives us more. Super senses, there's a fair amount of, and this set gives us lots more. Even if this was the only thing in this set, if it was basically a booster pack that was just nothing but Necro Swords, it would still be useful within the current environment, and it's only going to be more so in the environment to come. So I think it's a given that this is highly useful. It is worth noting, of course, it only works with close attacks, and so it's not going to go on absolutely every piece, and it's not going to go on absolutely every build. But I think when you can use it, you can really get a lot of use out of it. I think that anyone who's playing Vulture should give some serious consideration to having this in addition to the arms and just deciding which one you use, right? Like that was, people used to do that with the Blood Axe. I think that you can do that very much with this as well. It's worth the 15 points to have the option, because if your Vulture happens to be up against a team of 5 Super Skrulls, then this is the one you're reaching for. I mean, the Super Skrull will still be able to go to Impervious, but that's 1 rollout instead of 3, and this just cuts through things in a crazy fashion. Vulture hates rollouts. This gets around that. Lots of other close combat pieces are viable, so really good object.
Absolutely. I can't even add anything onto that. It's Battle Fury without the bad side.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
All right. Next up, now this one's in a bubble, because you can't actually add it to your force unless you use a specific Spider-Man. But we'll talk what it does. It's the garbage can. When a friendly character of figure number 54 who does generate this Spider-Man would be KO'd if this object is unheld. Instead, you may replace Spider-Man with figure number 16, Peter Parker, on click number 2, adjacent to this object, if you do KO this object. And this gets generated in your starting area by that figure, that Spider-Man. So this kind of goes with the review of Spider-Man.
Yeah, totally. But nothing to say.
Yeah, nothing really to say. It's a good effect, though. It is, because worth noting that Peter Parker on click 2, very similar to click 1. And last, Waldo arms. We've talked about this on the show in the past, but worth a revisit. Giant Reach 2. At the beginning of your turn, you may roll d6. This character has the listed effect until your next turn. On a 1 to 2, modify attack and defense by +1. On a 3 to 4, incapacitate is free. On a 5 or 6, make a close attack is free. Make a close attack. Tom, what do you think?
I'm going to give it a thumbs up, even if it's a tentative one. I don't like unreliable effects for the most part. All 3 of these effects are good, but they're not all good in the same situation. So you really kind of wish that there was like the option to roll a 6 and choose or something, but there is not. So this does not take the place of the Doc Ock arms. We've talked before about the fact that eventually the Ock arms will rotate, and maybe this will make for a good combination. It doesn't even do that much of a similar thing to the Ock arms, though. Really, like it gives you giant reach 2, and I guess the 5 to 6 free attack is akin to Flurry, but it's not a perfect comparison. All 3 of the options are good, but since they're not all good in the same situation, I think that this is kind of a just makes a good piece better object, but it's not a one that you build around for anything other than general improvement.
Yeah, that was going to be like exactly how I kind of referred to it. This is good on a lot of figures, but they're already really good figures, so it's just like a bump up. So, yeah. All right, time to start talking about figures now. Worth noting, we've now talked about these objects. These objects are all over the place for figures, so we've all talked about them. Some of the figures or those object values go up in conjunction with some of these figures getting them for free. But we're gonna start with figure number 1, Spider-Man. He leads his own set. He's got 4 range, 2 targets. He has 40 points with the Spider-Man team ability. Avengers Codex, Reporter, Scientist, Spider-Man family keywords. He's traded First You Have to Catch Me. It's his super senses. He's got special movement power on his first 2 clicks or his first secret identity click. So you get that dial if you replace a Peter Parker, which gives him leap, climb, sidestep, and passenger 1. You started with the Waldo arms.
Go for it.
It's a solid common Spider-Man. It's 40 points for 4 clicks. It's not the worst thing. With traded super senses, it gets a little bit more exciting. But I look at this more as an option for Peter Parker personally. And I think that's where he shines a little bit more. We'll get into that when we get to Peter Parker, but I think this is more secret identity than character I pay 40 points for. What do you think, Tom?
Agreed. He's a thumbs down for me. It's not that he's bad, but he doesn't fulfill any particular role in a unique fashion, and thus the only way that he would ever really be worth considering is if he was a really great value, and as it is, he's just a decent value. There's nothing to complain about, but since there's nothing to get excited about either, then I'm not reaching for him.
All right. Next up, Iron Man, as worn by Mary Jane Watson. Armor, Celebrity, Spider-Man Family, Stark Industries keywords, ignores hindering for line of fire. Special attack power on its first 3 on her first 3 clicks or the first 2 of the secret identity dial. Mary Jane is the identity on this one. When Iron Man hits with a range attack after resolutions, each hit target is knocked back 4 squares. Again, kind of like Spider-Man, what Tom said, it's a thumbs down as far as a character I'm going to be spending 60 points for. It's at best, it's like a panic sideline for me for the secret identity, to be honest. What do you think, Tom?
I would agree with you. It's definitely a thumbs down. This is a set in which they really have pulled back hard on move and attack, unless you count sidestep as a form of movement attack, which it kind of is, but barely. I'm really talking about the running shots, the charges, the hypersonics. You'll see much less of it than you're used to seeing in sets in this one. It does seem to be a very conscious design choice, but it hurts some things more than others, and I would say that a principally ranged, focused blasting piece is a good example of something that kind of needs that move and attack, especially when the values are so low. A 10 and 2 for 60 points on this is really unfortunate. Yeah. So I don't even think it's a very good secret identity swap in. I mean, it's perplex, and that's about all we can say about it. So I'm pretty unimpressed.
Yeah. All right, next up, Iron Fist. Zero range, Spider-Man family team ability, 60 points. Defenders, Heroes for Hire, Kunlun, Martial Artist, Marvel Knights, and Mystical. I swear I sound like I was saying the lines from the Iron Fist TV show. Defender of Kunlun, Defeater of the Dragon. Ignores characters for movement, and he's got a trait, I am the Iron Fist. At the end of your turn, if Iron Fist didn't move or make an attack this turn, give him a Chi token. Free, remove any number of Chi tokens to make that many close attacks against different targets, maximum damage value 3. Tom, Iron Fist?
I mean, he is a thumbs down as well, and I'm sorry about this. I promise this it does turn around.
Oh yeah.
He just to me isn't really worth the 60 points you're investing in him. I do think it's kind of cool. Because of the fact that your chi tokens can't be used to target the same person over and over again. There's not a lot of point trying to stockpile them, but getting them isn't that hard. If you have somebody dedicated to carrying him around, then nothing says that he can't collect chi tokens while he's getting carried. He does make you consider whether or not you actually want a sidestep because it would give up your opportunity. And all you really need is one at the end of your first turn to be able to move 10 squares and then make a free attack, which is great. But that free attack is a 10-2. Precision Strike at least helps you get through things, but it's pretty underwhelming. And if you don't have a bunch of them, which you won't have time to in your average competitive game, you're not going to make that many attacks. If you don't have a lot, then you're not getting over his crappy values. So sorry, not worth 60 points to me.
Doesn't even have his maximum damage value on the first 2 clicks. He doesn't have it till the middle clicks, which, if you take 3 damage, you'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Good for you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right, next up, Prowler. 4 range, Spider-Man team ability, 30 points, stealth across the top, Spider-Man family keyword, it grows elevated and hindering for movement. I'm going to say that a lot, too. Special attack power in his first 2 clicks, arms with gas grenades. Smoke Cloud. Smoke Cloud is free, but only to generate 3 markers. He starts with some Perplex. Solid, no. I'm like, this is all he does. Like, again, it gets better, trust me, but this is, again, we're saying this for the competitive game. We said it at the beginning. So this is good, but it's not a consideration for the meta. Tom?
I would agree. It's a thumbs down for me. If you thought about, imagine this piece, but no stealth, no free smoke cloud, 25 points. Absolutely not worth it. And that's basically what he is with the Nightbringer equipped. Is he becomes a 30-point piece with those powers. So if he's not worth it with 25 without the Nightbringer-ish effects, he's not worth it at 30 with them. I just don't think it's worth consideration.
All right. Next up, we have the Black Cat. 3 range, Underworld team ability, 40 points, ruler keyword. That's not going to matter because Black Cat's forming a gang. When establishing theme teams, Black Cat gains the named keyword of another character on your starting force. She's got a special movement power that gives her leap, climb, sidestep, and stealth. A special damage power, a bad luck field. Opposing characters within 4 squares can't use probability control to re-roll attack rolls that contain a 1 or 2. What do you think of the Black Cat, Tom?
This is the first one who gets a tentative thumbs up. I'm always a fan of pieces that you can put on any theme team. There's a lot of theme shenanigans in this set, and this is the first example thereof, and 40 points is good. I wanted to take just a moment, because I did a little bit of math on this to figure out roughly how often you're going to have rolls that contain a 1 or a 2. And this is easy math to do, so I just want to tell everybody who happens to be listening who doesn't know how to do compound probabilities, this is real easy. What you're looking for is you're trying to figure you're rolling 2 dice, and one of the 2 of them has to contain a 1 or a 2. So the way that you find that out, you can easily think of the opposite of that, which is that both dice have to be 3 through 6. And whatever the inverse of that probability is, that's the likelihood that one of them will have 1 or a 2. So the odds of one dice having a 3 through 6 are 2/3, right? It's basically 4 of the 6 sides, so it's 2/3. And the other one is also 2/3. 2/3 times 2/3 is 4/9. So the odds of them both being 3 through 6 are 4/9. Ergo, the odds of one of them, at least one of them, having a 1 or a 2 is 5/9, which is slightly more than 50%. So this basically shuts off your opponent's prob slightly more than 50% of the time. And if it's your opponent's turn, they're more likely to need to re-roll if they are the ones rolling the 1s or 2s. So it is working to your favor on their turns. So this is a nice way of shutting off prob, and it's actually a little more effective than it might seem at first. In fact, this is better than 50-50. So it'll shut off prob more often than it won't on balance. Mm-hmm. And that is good enough as far as I'm concerned to be worth considering. It's about a 9-square bubble in all directions because she's at the middle of it, and 4 squares in all directions. So it creates this 9-square round bubble that she can jump into and really mess with your opponent's probability control. So I'm sorry to take a little bit of time on that, but
No.
it's kind of worth thinking that through, because that's why I think she justifies 40 points inclusion on your team, or at least consideration
on any theme team too. So
on any team.
Worth noting. And yes, I 100% agree that messing with somebody else's probability control is great. And she gets her own probability control towards the end. You're not likely to see those characters if you're getting blasted, but again, it's a 40-point character with 5 clicks too. Like, the more and more you talk about this character, the more and more there is to like about this character.
Yeah,
she carries
a good team ability.
Yeah.
Yep,
yeah. So there's nothing to not like about the Black Cat. So it's a really great common. Speaking of more comments to go through, Black Widow, 4 range, 2 targets, the Ultimates team ability. When was the last time we said that? 60 points. Shield, Spider-Man family, Ultimates keywords. Ignores elevated for movement. Doesn't have to mention hindering because she does with the Ultimates team ability, which ignores ignores hindering for line of fire and movement. So, Black Widow may start the game with the Dimensional Watch equipped. Ultimate Spider Sense, Super Senses. Once per turn, you may reroll a friendly character Super Sense roll or Shape Change roll if that character is within range and line of fire. Everything seems appealing about this character. It's the point value that gets me a little bit like, and it's on dial willpower, which gets me a little too. There's a lot of things that I kind of cringe about with this character, and I want to like her more. But unfortunately, I do have to give her a thumbs down for just competitive play in general. Tom?
Agreed. She is the thumbs down. Once again, let's do the same math we just did. You have super senses. If you can re-roll your super senses, you're looking for a 5 or a 6, and one of your 2 rolls has to be a 5 or 6. That's exactly the same probability as Black Cats. So we just figured out that your odds of successfully rolling out are now slightly better than 50-50. So this is a better than super senses on a 4 through 6 and we've seen how good that can be. So the super sense bit is good. However, it is only once per turn. It is good because she gets to do it for other people, so that's all good, but the piece that is surviving has to be justifying its presence on the team, and that's where it breaks down for me.
Yeah.
So I really like the Ultimate Spider Sense trait, but I don't like very much else. So she just barely doesn't make it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next up, Venom. 4 range, Spider-Man team ability, 65 points. Codex Monster Reporter, Sinister Syndicate, Spider-Man family keywords. Elevated and hindering is ignored for movement. Traded symbiote, plasticity, shape change. No surprise there. Lethal Protector is his other trait. Once per attack. When an adjacent friendly character takes damage, give Venom a Protector token. I forgot this several times in the first game I played of the day, but once I started remembering it, it got really interesting. And that token gives you the ability to take a free, remove a Protector token to make a free close attack that deals penetrating damage. Tom, what do you think of Venom?
I'm super on the fence, and I'm going to let you do more speaking because you got more first-hand knowledge of him. My inclination is to give him a very small thumbs up. Its thumbs just barely pointing up, only because I think for 65 points, he's a good cleaner. He's not leading the fight, but that Lethal Protector thing is easier to pull off than it might seem if he's kind of clustered around other people. And free penetrating attacks are nothing to sneeze at. Mm-hmm. So I think that if your opponent tries to go straight for him to limit the effectiveness of that, then you make them regret it by overextending. And if they don't, then he becomes more of a later game cleaner. That's what I see when I look at him, but I'm not sure yet.
Based on my experience, he didn't survive a single game I played. And I think that's part of it, is he seems tough with toughness, but he doesn't really hold water. I'm more interested in him being a replacement for Eddie Brock, to be personally honest, just to get that little bit of longevity out of him. Plasticity, shape change, it's a great combination of powers. He's super mobile, and when that Lethal Protector thing works, boy is it super strong. But you got to be in that position, and that position is next to the guy who's taking damage from an attack. So you're not getting it off of poison. You're not getting off of our friend Valeria and her little pets, which we'll talk about later. It seems appealing, but I think he'll let you down more times than he's going to impress you, to be honest. Fair enough. Next, we move on to his Prime version. This is the same name, Venom. 4 range, Spider-Man team ability, 80 points this time. Codex Maximum Carnage, Monster, Reporter, Sinister Syndicate, Spider-Man Family keywords. Again, ignores elevated and hindering for movement. Has a Symbiote Codex Hunter trait, which is plasticity and shape change, as well as when Venom KOs an opposing character after resolutions, heals 1 click. If that character had the Codex keyword, heals 3 clicks instead. So that's the Symbiote Codex Hunter. His special movement power, which he has in his first 3 clicks or the first click of the secret identity dial, driven bad by null, charge, but do not half speed. When Venom uses it, after resolutions, deal 1 penetrating damage to each adjacent character, friendly and opposing. So careful with that power. His special defense power, the symbiote is taking over. Stop, toughness, free, roll a d6. On a 1, give Venom an action token. On a 2 to 5, choose 1 to last until your next turn, impervious or regeneration. And on a 6, you heal 2 clicks. This guy I've seen in action, and he terrifies me. Because you charge... Oh, poop, I missed. Oh, well, I'm getting some damage out of this. And it's a full movement charge that doesn't have... Usually the full movement charge is you got to go in a straight line. No. You just move 10. Yeah. So I like this a little bit more than previous Venom. It's a wild card, too, which goes that little bit of extra. Make friends with some Skrulls, bro. Because he's traded with the shape change, a Skrull with a +1. How about that, right?
Oh, so was the other Venom, to be fair.
To be fair, yes, the other Venom was it's just... this one, because of that extra little bit of damage, and...
Oh, yeah, this is much better.
This is just... this seems to shine over him. And I would rather this Venom over the other one, even though it's an 80-point inclusion. Also really good as a surprise bomb if you just lost your Eddie Brock. Anything you want to add?
I will also give him a thumbs up, and I will say that he's very difficult to finish off when he has the triple or possibly quadruple whammy of the stop click on steel energy with a trait that gives healing as well as a power that gives healing, whether that be regeneration or just auto healing. So that's a lot of different ways to not die, because as soon as you go off that stop click, you just hit it and hit the stop again. So very hard to finish off. Let's be honest, he's the Prime. Is he better than Vulture? Is he better than Batman Prime? Is he better than Black Leopard? Is he better than Micron? Is he better than? Yeah. Within your Prime slot, I don't even know if he makes the top 10. He certainly doesn't make the top 5. But he's a good piece, so keep him in mind.
Yeah. You know what? There's a lot of teams that won't be using any of the Primes that you just listed as well, which makes him a sideline option, which is why I like to bring up the...
That's why I give him a thumbs up, too. So,
all right. Let's take the air out of the room. Let's talk about Deathlock. 6 range, 75 points. Assassin Codex, Robot, Shield, Soldier keyword. Ignores characters and hindering for line of fire. He has regeneration as a trait. And then a special damage power in his first 3 clicks. Computer, calculate countermeasures. At the beginning of your turn, choose a standard damage power. Deathlock can use the chosen power until your next turn. What do you think, Tom? What do you think of Deathlock?
What can I say? He is a thumbs down. Here's the thing. I actually really like a lot of things about him. Pick a power on damage is great, and traded regeneration is great. Also, ignoring hindering in characters especially, is awesome. For targeting is really good. These are all great things, and he's your support piece, literally capital S support. He can heal people. He also is your close combat expert when he gets in close. RCE when he's got a shot. You can get Battle Fury to get around all that shape change, or you can outwit things. You can perplex and prob. You can do it all, and you can heal yourself back up with your regeneration. But he is a perfect example of a straight-up overcosted piece, because honestly, I think he might be 15 points overcosted. For 60, I might consider him. For 50, I would strongly consider him. But for 75, there's no way.
This is one of those things that I think was included in the set strictly with sealed in mind.
Yeah, but even then, I don't know. 75 is a hard sell for me.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah. All right, next up, Bombshell. 5 range, Ultimate Team ability, 40 points. Champions, Femizon, Sinister Syndicate, and Ultimates keywords. The mother-daughter duo. Force Blast if Bombshell is within 3 squares of figure number 25 Bombshell. We'll get there. She can use Pulse Wave and has Protected Pulse Wave. And that's capital Protected Pulse Wave. Riding shockwaves is a special movement power. Running shot. When Bombshell knocks back one or more characters after resolutions, Bombshell may move up to X squares, where X is the highest number of squares a character was knocked back during that action. Everything about this screams really cool, but not cool enough. Ultimate team ability, great if you're using the wildcard support. Having Pulse Wave and being protected from Pulse Wave with the other Bombshell sounds great. But it's a whole bunch of things that kind of have to fit together for a character that's ultimately Energy Explosion with Perplex and, with some Force Blast energy exploding. So the solid definition, if you ask me, of okay, but I'm gonna okay. I do have to remember that we're about to enter a world where a character that can use Force Blast or can knock back in general is going to be a dangerous include in a specific team. I just don't think she's part of that necessarily. But that's my call. What do you think, Tom?
I think you're right. I mean, I'm going to give my first thumb sideways on this one because I just can't. I don't have it in my heart to go in either other direction. I love Energy Explosion Force Blast. It's one of my favorite power combinations in the game. And I think it's cool that she can running shot forward, energy explode, knock everyone back, so you're not only hitting a formation, but you're busting the formation, and then based on how much they move, you can then pull yourself back again to safety. You combine that with her Perplex, and the fact that she's a taxi, and I think she's got a lot going for her. Ultimates is an amazing team ability, so she's blasting you even through hindering, and she's giving that out to your wild cards, and it's a really great one to wild card to. But she is softer than wet tissue paper and dies to one hit from
most things.
Pieces that from just about anything. Let's face it. She dies in 4 hits, and you only need to get a 17 to do it. So I cannot give her a thumbs up, but I cannot give her a thumbs down when she has just some of my favorite power combinations in the game. So I cannot choose the one in front of me or you. I have to give her a thumb sideways, but I'm not building with her. That's for sure.
All right. Next up, Tombstone. Sinister Syndicate, Underworld, team abilities, 75 points. Magia, Sinister Syndicate, the hand, keywords. Special defense power in his first 3 clicks, tougher than the cold Bronx pavement, impervious. Tombstone can reduce penetrating damage. This power is also protected outwit. I mean, there's one of these in every set. It's Tombstone. What do you expect? I'm not putting in my competitive team. Sorry, I took your chance there, Tom.
No, I think you pretty much said it. It's a thumbs down for all the reasons that you said. It's not that he's awful. He's what Tombstone should be, which is hard to take down, but that's all we can say. So that's not enough to get a thumbs up from me.
All right. Next up, we have the Carnage minion. 30 points. Codex, Maximum Carnage, monster keywords. Has a Maximum Carnage trait. We haven't discussed this one yet, so this is a brand new one. You're going to see this in other places. Once per turn, when Carnage minion hits, after resolutions, deal 1 penetrating damage to up to 2 opposing characters that weren't hit but are adjacent to the hit character. Has a symbiote Codex Hunter, so plasticity, shape change, heals if it kills. And then special movement power on all 3 of its clicks. 4-armed killing machine, which gives it flurry, sidestep. Tom, what do you think of the Carnage minion?
It's tough, but I'm going to give it a thumbs up. It's a tentative thumbs up, but it's just too much to not like. I love Precision Strike and Battle Fury together. It's especially good against this set, but it's also just great against all your rollouts, and there's way too many of those as it is. Combine that with the survivability of Shape Change and the combat reflexes, and the fact that the Maximum Carnage can get a lot of damage out. Again, Battle Fury's Precision Strike is helping you make sure somebody gets hit, and the Maximum Carnage helps really rub that in, and it's combined with Flurry, which is incredible. The biggest problem here is the lack of move and attack, but because it's such a cheap figure, then it very much is a figure that you can afford to just run up at your opponents and force them to do something about them, whether that be take them out and activate your Retaliators, or waste their outwits to try to slow them down, or just take their chances and maybe regret doing it. For 30 points, it forces your opponent to a decision, and I think it's got enough output. It's not there to survive. It's there to make your opponent's life and their choices more difficult.
Absolutely agree 100% with what you just said there. All right, next up, we have Toxin. 50 points. Codex, Monster, Police, Reporter, Sinister Syndicate keywords, Symbiote trait, so plasticity and shape change, special movement power in its first 3 clicks or the first 2 of the secret identity. Leap Climb, when Toxin uses it, after resolutions, he may make a close attack. That's cool. It's not, okay, caveat, you're not going to be able to use your blades with it. Sorry, guys. But an 11 attack, 3 damage with full movement attack is pretty good for a 50-point character. You look at it, you say he doesn't have Spider-Man family. Well, yes, he does. We'll talk about that later. And 6 clicks for 50 points with that kind of survivability from that's added from the shape change on a character that can get right in the face, and then he's forcing the close combat situation with combat reflexes. 18 defense with combat reflexes is nothing to sneeze at. It's one of those situations like it's leap climb that works. What are the odds, right? Right? And not a terrible include as an option for Eddie Brock. What do you think, Tom?
I agree. He's a thumbs up for me. It's a tentative one. He does so much that's good. On his own, he's not good enough. But it's not that hard or expensive to beef him up with things. I look at him and I see 9 movement, leap, climb. I think of one Moloid carrying another Moloid, and they both sidestep can make it 10 squares, and you've got 2 empowers to go on that free close attack you just made, and now it's an 11 for 5. That's only 70 points you're into it, and you're 3 people towards a monster theme team. Makes sense to me. Like, there are lots of cheap monsters that can help make them better, and that's what you need to do. But as a beginning to build around, I can see 2 of these guys, 2 or 3 Moloids. You're only 130 points in, and you've got a lot of room left to build. So yeah. I think there's a potential. Absolutely.
All right, next up we have Harry Osborn, the first of the Secret Identity characters. Spider-Man team ability, 30 points. Dark Avengers, Spider-Man family. You notice that symbol is missing? He's autonomous, ladies and gentlemen. Characters, non-bystanders, are becoming autonomous. Be ready. Did I say Dark Avengers Spider-Man family? He's a Dark Avengers Spider-Man family. His secret identities are American Son and Green Goblin. When he would be KO'd, you may instead replace him with the secret identity character on click number 9. This game, then the replacement is KO'd. It scores its character's opponents an additional 25 points. So, we have autonomous healing. Tom?
Yeah, for me, it's a thumbs up. Autonomous healing is good in and of itself. Dedicated healers are always difficult, I think, in this game because support is a power you never actually want to use. And support is also a power that more than half the time you probably won't be able to use for one reason or another. Either game's going so well, there's no reason to. Game's going so poorly that all your pieces are dead, and who cares about healing? They take out your healer, they outwit your healer, or they park themselves next to their healer or the other person. So, dedicated support kind of has to be cheap to be worth including at all, and ideally it should have some solution for some of the things I just listed. Thankfully, this guy is cheap and does have a couple of solutions. One is that if you park next to him, he is an 11 attack precision strike, so he may be able to get some work done. So that's great. Also, he's not that easy to take out because if you do take him out, he could potentially turn into a fighting piece, and maybe that's going to be useful to you, maybe it isn't. This is the first secret identity we found. We haven't been giving thumbs up, thumbs down ratings to the actual secret identity bits of dials, and the reason for that is simply they will always be a thumbs up by definition because secret identity is not required.
Yeah.
If it is not in your advantage to switch to a secret identity piece, just don't do it, and you're giving up no points. So you're never in a situation where you're required to give up points or play something you don't want to play, so you're never in a thumbs down situation. The only situation you'll ever be in is maybe it's useful to switch into a different piece, and if that's the case, you'll hit the board, it's going to be good for you, thus it is a thumbs up. So secret identity is a pure gravy thing, there's no commitment, all it does is take up room on your sideline, and that's not quite as precious now as it once was, even in a lot of cases anyway. So yeah, I think he's a thumbs up piece.
I don't know if you really kind of stressed this too. With all the things that you said that he does, because he's autonomous, it doesn't take out of your already precious and limited action pool. So right. When you are doing that, people are thinking, why am I going to take an action to make an 11 attack 1 damage? You're not. You're getting an action token on Harry Osborn, but it doesn't count towards one of your 3 to 4 actions. So poke away, guys. I mean, he's got willpower to start, or to boot, too. And if he doesn't have willpower, it's because he has perplex. You're doing that. So, yeah.
Even being a 30-point autonomous wild card goes a long way. Yeah. The big example that comes to my mind is the shield team ability, because you use the shield team ability, it's not counting towards your action pool, and it's like super enhancement. The only thing you could ever want would be to still be able to have an autonomous wild card, but pay ideally half as much for it and make it even better.
Way to spoil the next character. How about that? Mary Jane Watson, Spider-Man team ability, 15 points, Celebrity, Spider-Man Family, Stark Industries keywords, secret identities towards Marvela and She-Venom, and need a distraction, Tiger? Don't forget you're married to a movie star. Power, if no friendly character or friendly bystanders named Paparazzi are on the map, roll a d6. Generate a number of Paparazzi bystanders equal to half the result in unoccupied squares within 4 squares. The Paparazzis, 2 range, 5 movement with sidestep, autonomous as well, 10 attack with incapacitate with a 15 defense, 0 damage.
Go for
it. Yeah. So for 15 points, for what comes out as 0 action totals, I can get between 1 and 3 characters who won't take my action token totals and will incapacitate somebody potentially. So if I get 2, I lock down a character for a turn if I happen to hit with the 10 attack. It's kind of average, but nothing wrong with that. It hasn't taken an action. If I get 3 of them, I might get an extra damage out of it if everything goes well in the situation. Or 1, I put an action token on somebody who doesn't want an action token. Not a problem. All this, and before we've even taken an action token on Mary Jane, you can do it with a sidestep first, power action, put them up to 4 squares. So you've moved up to 6 squares away from the starting area, and then you can sidestep again with the Paparazzis, and they have a 2 range with their incapacitate. The reach on this 15-point character with free incapacitates is bonkers. And then she's got shape change to boot on the start with energy shield, with the potential to possibly copy the Skrull team ability again. We bring that back when a character has shape change and a wild card, because the new Skrull is amazing with that combination. And if you do happen to kill this character, when we get to the later versions of her, there might be something of a better quality. But for 15 points, I'm not saying no to Mary Jane. An enthusiastic double thumbs up for me on Mary Jane.
Absolutely. Huge thumbs up. This piece is bananas. Like, everything you just said is true, and what's funny is that it's still bananas even if less than what you said is true, which is, who cares about incapacitate? Just create them and they can run up and stand next to your opponent. They're still annoying as can be. You're just crowding them up with pieces that run up the board and annoy people. That's a 13 swing to just get somebody standing next to somebody who doesn't want to be there. So yeah, by all means, like, she creates people who work like barriers. They just go up, they block lines of fire, they cut off people's movement paths, they stop people being able to move. They do exactly what little paparazzi are supposed to do, and I think it's a fantastic effect, but it would be a fantastic effect on a piece that would be 3 or 4 times this cost. To get all this for 15 points, in addition to an autonomous wild card, as we said, for abuse with S.H.I.E.L.D., or for any other abuse that you can think of, and on Spider-Man Family, which is going to become a huge keyworded team to go forward. I just think that she's unbelievable. The only thing I'm happy that they did was at least they did limit the bystanders to be based on bystanders named paparazzi. So you can't play 4 of them and suddenly create 12 paparazzi. Like, it is at least a little limited. But I mean, I don't care. She's worth 15 points if she didn't even have that trait. So imagine what she's worth with it.
Absolutely. All right. Next up, Eddie Brock, 35 points, 4 range, doesn't have the team ability. Codex, monster reporter keyword, secret identity to Toxin Venom, also has a symbiote trait with some sidestep and range combat expert. Tom, what do you think of Eddie Brock?
I regrettably kind of have to feel like I have to give him a thumbs down. He's one of the weaker of the secret identities. He's still autonomous, which is great. I like the fact that he's got plasticity shape change, makes him a great little tie-up, so he is good to go and stand in your opponent's face, and then get into a weird place, because I don't want RCE on my tie-up, but he's very likely to be able to sidestep away thanks to that plasticity and use the RCE, so maybe there's value there, but he's just a little too wishy-washy. He also doesn't feel anything like Eddie Brock to me. Like, I don't know which Eddie Brock this is supposed to be, but it's not my Eddie Brock, so not for me.
He seems more like Frank West, for those of you who get that joke. But that said, I feel like there's an oversight as far as, there's a trait that they've used for other reporters that I think would have been appropriate here and somewhere else. But
yeah. Oh well.
Speaking of that somewhere else, Peter Parker. Avengers, Codex, Reporter, Scientist, Spider-Man Family keywords, 3 range with the Spider-Man team ability for 35 points. Secret Identity Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, with some prob and some defend towards the end, outwit towards the end. I've used this Peter Parker. 35 points for prob is cheap. And, we've said it. The Spider-Man family's about to go nuts. He's also a scientist and an Avenger. It's a thumbs up for including 35-point prob with some evasion. Tom?
Absolute agreement on all points, I think. 35 points, great keywords and prob. Everything else is gravy.
All right. Next up, Aaron Davis, 4 range, Underworld team ability, 30 points. I did mention he was autonomous. Like Eddie Brock and Parker are both autonomous. Underworld team ability, 30 points. Magia, Sinister Syndicate team abilities. His secret identity is Iron Spider and Prowler. Not the one we talked about earlier. Another one we're going to talk about later. Go ahead, Tom. Aaron Davis.
Yeah, he's a thumbs down. He has got Stealth Perplex, which is okay, but that's all he's got. It's just boring. There's not much to talk about. I don't think he's worth his points, even though I have nothing else to say.
Honestly, when we get to something later, there's a better option for less points, I think, as far as this is concerned. All right, so we enter the uncommon slot with Spider-Man. Whoops. This is Miles Morales. 4 range, Spider-Man team ability, Ultimates team ability. He's 65 points with the Avengers, Champions, Shield, Spider-Man family, Ultimates keywords. He ignores Elevated for movement. He's got the Ultimates, that's why. He gets to be ability to start with a Dimensional Travel Watch, so he has phasing too, if you want to do that. His special movement power, a slightly different genetically engineered spider, plasticity, sidestep, and stealth. Special attack power, shocking web blast, precision strike. When Spider-Man is given a move action and moves 5 squares or less, after resolutions, he can use Incapacitate as range at no cost and may use it to target all opposing characters within range and line of fire. So once you include this with the Dimensional Watch, that actually gets a little bit better. That special attack power, because you can move that with impunity because you can phase. So I think that's a cool addition, and it is a pretty strong Incapacitate. In addition to all of that, the problem is this is a 65-point character. It lacks a little bit of Indomitable, and when he takes a hit, he takes it hard, which is kind of the deal with super senses in general. But ultimately, he's cool. I'm gonna give him a thumbs down personally. Tom?
Yeah, I'm also going to give him a thumbs down, and I'm sorry to say that the commons had this split between pieces that were really good and pieces that were just kind of bland and not not worth consideration. Once we hit the uncommons, we're going to start to get into the just not good enoughs, and unfortunately, there's going to be lots of just not good enough. So buckle up. I'm sorry. We'll get to better stuff.
We'll get there. All right. Next up, we have the Demo Goblin. Maximum Carnage, monster, mystical keyword, 6 range, 60 points. Pumpkin Bomb trait, so he can start with the Pumpkin Bomb. Surprise, surprise. Special attack power, destroy the non-believers. Precision strike, free, choose one. Improved targeting, once per ranged attack. Choose one improved targeting once per ranged attack. So you can choose ignores blocking, or can draw a line of fire through one blocking and destroy it. Ignore characters, ignore elevated, or ignore hindering, and Demo Goblin can use that chosen ability this turn. And again, like Tom said, we're entering this slot. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, it's a thumbs down, not good enough. That's really all there is to say about it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It again, cool, just not good enough.
Yeah, good enough for 60 points.
All right, next up we have Prowler. 40 points, 4 range, Sinister Syndicate team ability, Magia, Martial Artist, Sinister Syndicate, ignores elevated and hindering for movement, special movement, power, casing the job, sidestep, and stealth. Free, if Prowler occupies hindering terrain, place him in hindering terrain within 4 squares in line of fire. Special attack power, Vibro Shock Gauntlets. Quake, when Prowler uses it, after resolutions give a hit character an action token. The problem is that this is attached to Aaron Davies, who we already gave a bad review. So even if I tried to say, hey, the secret identity's it's not so much an option. So, once again, not good enough.
Yeah, close for what it's worth.
Yeah.
There is Indomitable here. he can move up to 4 squares unassisted, and then either exploit weakness or quake and potentially give out action tokens. So it's close, but it's unfortunately close doesn't count for much outside of hand grenades and horseshoes.
Yeah. All right. Next up, it ain't me. Ain't no fortunate son. American Son. 6 range, 2 targets, 65 points, armor, Dark Avengers, Spider-Man family. To be the son Norman wanted or not, the first time American Son would KO an opposing character of 25 points, you may instead turn them to their last non-KO click. If you do, this game, American Son can use Perplex and modifies his combat values by +1. If you don't, after resolutions, deal American Son 1 unavoidable damage, and this game he can use a wit and deals penetrating damage. Special defense power on his first 2 clicks gives him energy shield and invulnerable. He is indomitable, and he does have a secret identity that goes to Harry Osborn. Yeah.
He is a thumbs down. I'm sorry. I like this as a possible switch from Harry because 18 defend is great and sidestep taxi is great. So this is one of these situational ones where sometimes it's better if Harry dies, but sometimes it's better if Harry comes out and is able to taxi his allies back and defend them with an 18 and focus on dual target incapacitate. So worth consideration for that. If I look at his 65-point dial and imagine all of his clicks as +1 to their values, then it's absolutely worth it. But he's got to KO something for that to happen, and that's just not going to happen, my friend. So he's another thumbs down.
Yeah. Agree. I'm just gonna agree and move on. Next up, Deathlock again. 6 range, team player, team ability, so wildcard, 60 points. Future robot soldier is the keywords. Breaking free of my creator's will gives him leadership. When Deathlock uses it and succeeds, give him a freedom token. If Deathlock has 2 or less freedom tokens, characters take a maximum of 1 damage from Deathlock's attack. Like, this is a bad version of the robots from the Danger Room robots, right?
A horrendous version.
Like the worst possible way. Like, his stats are great, but he's dealing 1 damage at a time until he succeeds at leadership. And I've had characters go whole games without making a leadership roll. And I'm investing 60 points. He needs to succeed at
it 3 times. 2 or
less. Oh, yeah,
less.
if he has 2 or less. You need 3 successes on that? Like, for the averages for that to work, you need 9 turns. I would love a 9-turn competitive game. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the common?
Who works at WizKids and hates Deathlock? This poor guy.
I think they just hate Luther Manning. They were okay with Michael Collins.
I don't know, man.
Let's just move on. Just
he's
make me
bad.
angry.
What are we going to
say? Steel Serpent. Like, we went from, like, not good enough to just outright not good. So, okay. Steel Serpent. Yeah, all of a sudden I was like, maybe with the Latveria map, but that I gotta spend 5 points on a map for him to work, and I gotta choose him for my Latveria target. No, Steel Serpent, Hydra team ability, 60 points. Hydra, Kunlun, martial artist, and mystical keywords. Ignores characters for movement. Summon the chi from others once per turn when an adjacent friendly character is damaged by an opponent's attack. Give Steel Serpent a chi token. Remove any number of chi tokens to take that many attacks against different targets, maximum damage value of 3. Special damage power on his first 4 clicks. Empower and leadership is fight for me, die for me. Tom, what do you think of Steel Serpent?
I think he's a thumbs down. I like Lethal Protector, but it dealt penetrating damage. This doesn't. I don't know what to say about him. He's got a whole bunch of powers. Some of them are half decent. He's got Mastermind backloaded. Fantastic. He has very little going for him that I want to be able to play for any reason. He is purely an inclusion on your SEAL team, and you didn't pull any better. Nice to see the Hydra team ability. Been a while.
Yeah. Worth mentioning about his late dial Mastermind. It makes him easier to hit than the guy next to him. So go ahead, pass the damage. It was easier to hit him anyway. All right. Next up, we have Hammerhead. He comes in at either 70 points or 50 points. Or 30 points, sorry. 70 or 30. My bad. Brute, Enforcers, Magia, Sinister Syndicate team ability, and Sinister Syndicate keywords, has a Sinister Syndicate team ability with 0 range, ignores blocking and can break through it for movement. Yet another Sinister 6. When an adjacent friendly character with a Sinister Syndicate keyword begins a move, they can use that improved movement, ignores blocking, can break through it during that move. He's traded straight to the top, head first. Charge. When he uses it, modified damage +1. Special attack power on his first 3 clicks if he pays 70 points for him. Let me introduce you to my friend Tommy. Hammerhead has a range of 5 and 2 targets. For 30, so for 70 points you get 6 clicks. 30 points you get 3 clicks. The back end of the dial. Yeah, I mean, I want Enforcers to work. I really do. But I don't think this is the piece that does it, or that adds that much to it. Okay, a couple things worth noting. Traded charge is good, and the fact that he does the extra damage is great. And he does have sidestep on a lot of his dial. So for 30 points, the ability to charge, break through things, and do 4 damage with a 10 attack is really good, especially if you can charge next to a Sinister Syndicate guy. So this falls under that. Not quite good enough for me, but I kind of like. I think maybe like a titch above Prowler, personally. What do you think, Tom?
I think that at 70 points, he's laughable. At 30 points, he's a thumbs up. Because I think that you do get, as you said, it's an unassisted 6 movement swing for his charge to deal 10-6, or 10-5, or 10-4, 10-4. But 10-5 if you're holding a light, which you should be. Yeah. And then if your opponent doesn't deal with him, then he's got Close Combat Expert on that 10-3, so he can hit you for 10-5 or 12-3, 11-4, whatever he like. No reason not to push him because he's just there to deal a whole bunch of damage. And again, he's helping clear terrain out of the way as he goes through. He helps out his Sinister Syndicate buddies, and he's only 30 points. So I think that it's a pretty decent little package for 30 points. I like any piece that you can't ignore.
Fair enough. All right, next up, the other Bombshell. 6 range, Sinister Syndicate team ability, 60 points. Sinister Syndicate keyword is the only one she has. Yet another Sinister 6, adjacent friendly characters with a Sinister Syndicate keyword, modify range +2. Mother-daughter duo, so it's the same thing, actually, altogether. She gets Pulse Wave, she's protected from Pulse Wave, she has Force Blast as part of a trait. And the exact same movement power on riding the Shockwaves, running shot, so on and so forth. Tom?
Just awful. Thumbs down. Just absolutely. 40 points was a barely consider including. For half again more, you get an extra click of life. What, are you kidding me?
No. Is this the mom? And the other one's the daughter?
I don't know. I didn't care enough to find out.
All right. Next up, Norman Osborn. 4 range, Sinister Syndicate team ability, 40 points. Excuse me, give me a second. Ooh, Cabal Codex, and every bad guy keyword, or like not used keyword. Cabal Codex, yeah. Dark Avengers, Hammer, Politician, Power Elite, Ruler, Sinister Syndicate, Thunderbolts. Secret Identity, Green Goblin, Iron Patriot, or Red Goblin. Traded, I'm the one in charge. Opposing characters within 4 squares can't use Mastermind. And a special damage power on his first 2 clicks, Leader of Hammer, Leadership, and Outwit. 40 points for Leadership, Outwit. That's protectable. Autonomous. It's got a little bit of attack power with the 10-2. It's not. I'm not over the moon about it. And if you can get it outwit on a defense power, why not? Fits on a ton of potential keywords. Going into Ruler specifically, and Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is one of those ones that's always on the edge of being great. Right. You know what I mean? So, I think he's pretty. I'm going to put him on a sideways just because, for as good as he is, it is a 40-point investment. And I'm not 100% on board with him. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, sideways is the right call, I think, because leadership is one of the best powers in the game at this point, and not so easy to get onto every single team in the world without Groot. And Outwit is one of the best powers after the rule change as well. So that's 2 really great powers protected by the combination of Stealth and Mastermind, so hard to deal with. 40 points is a little more than I'd like to pay. I know that's so privileged. I'm like, why can't it be 30?
First world Heroclix are problems.
Right, exactly. But of course, he does have the threat of turning into an attacking machine if you do take the time to try to KO him. So you're forcing your opponent to a decision. Autonomous to help him get around without counting towards your tokens. Getting around sucks when you have 7 movement stealth and no way of ignoring hinder train, but still good enough to be a sideways.
All right. Next up, Gwen Stacy. Spider-Man team ability, 25 points. Celebrity Spider-Man family keywords. Secret identity to Ghost Spider. And how loud do you want it is her second trait, which is opposing characters within 4 squares can't use super senses. Tom, where do you stand on Gwen Stacy?
I stand in the thumbs down department because she just is not good enough. Even though 25 points is cheap, and she's of course, what's that called? We've said it 95 times
Autonomous?
already, but I can never remember. Autonomous, yeah. Even though she's autonomous. Shutting down super senses is good, but it's not good enough. Exploit weakness is definitely not good enough. She's got some survivability, but if she doesn't survive, I'm just not convinced. She's okay. She's okay. Why would I ever not just play Mary Jane if I wanted to include a cheap wild card that I didn't trust to attack people?
I get a little bit more interested in this character in the fact that the Ghost Spider secret identity really makes her shine. In fact, this Ghost Spider, you only get in at an 85 point package. Spoiler alert, I'm a little less hot on the 85 point version than I am on a 25 point version that came from a Gwen Stacy that you haven't scored yet. So I put it more towards the thumbs sideways / up on the upside because of that package and the fact that it starts with the turning off of super senses as well. Right. So I think that the two as a unit are what make it a little bit more hot for me. That's where I stand on it.
I think it's a fair point of view, but the other thing I worry about is that my opponent simply won't care about Gwen Stacy.
Fair point.
They'll just ignore her.
Yeah. Unless they have shape change or super senses rather. Then they'll care.
Maybe.
All right. Next up, we have Flash Thompson. 35 points, 4 range. Avengers Codex, Guardians of the Galaxy, Shield, Soldier, Spider-Man family keywords. Secret identities to Agent Venom and Agent Anti-Venom. Symbiote trait. And then the real Anti-Venom. Opposing characters within 4 squares can't use shape change. Flash Thompson, 10 points more than Gwen Stacy makes me go, ugh. But again, including with the package of the Agent Venom and the Agent Anti-Venom makes me a little bit more hot on him. And I think that's why I kind of, autonomous with the ability to move up and willpower with poison, pretty solid combination if you ask me. So I put it sideways, but a hard sideways for me.
Yeah, for me, it goes all the way up, even though it is 10 points more, as you point out, and it is quite comparable to Gwen in a lot of ways, because on the one hand, you got super senses, on the other hand, you got shape change. On the one, you got take out super senses, the other one takes out shape change. But shape change is more common. There are so many objects to give it.
That's right.
No object gives super senses, besides super senses on a 6 only from that thing that nobody plays from Alistair Smythe, whatever his object was.
The mini spiders?
Slayer thing.
Aren't those gone anyway? Oh no, it was Earth X. Yeah, never mind.
That was Earth X, but you can be forgiven for not remembering because no one plays it.
Yeah.
So shape change, super common. Also, plasticity and poison, one of my favorite combinations of powers. Yeah. Close combat expert is awesome. So like this guy, unlike Gwen, where I think my opponent can more or less like knock her back or just stay away from her. He's harder to get away from and much harder to ignore, and as a result, they may feel the need to try to do something about him. And if they get me towards turning into a secret identity, I think that he's got some great choices. So yeah, thumbs up.
Did Charge stop ignoring knockback when I wasn't looking?
No, I wouldn't. Maybe they'll be WWE characters.
You just used another 25-point character, sir.
I'll DK them away.
All right. Next up, Jason Massendale. 6 range, Sinister Syndicate team ability, 25 points. Assassin, Magia, Martial Artist, Sinister Syndicate Soldier, and Spy keywords. Secret identity to Demo Goblin, Hobgoblin, and Jack-o'-lantern. Don't make deals with demons. Trust me, is his second trait. Opposing characters within 4 squares can't use Mystic Team ability. Special movement power, sidestep, and stealth. He's got some range combat expert. Go ahead.
Laughably bad.
Yeah.
Thumbs down. What do I really need to save with this 1 damage RCE that I'm not using? I mean, okay, fine. But, Mystic isn't that common. I guess he's not bad for 25 points. Laughably bad was actually too harsh, but but not good enough is a totally fair in my opinion.
Absolutely, because you end up using all the range combat expert for the damage. The attack is decent, but sometimes you need that 12.
Yeah.
All right.
You know what's funny is that he's one of the higher attack pieces with the Sinister Syndicate team ability. Like that is, I guess, one weird thing about him is that he is able to benefit like Spot and other pieces that have Sinister Syndicate and would benefit from the boost. So, okay, thumbs sideways. Maybe you need a better, as cheap a source of a higher attack value as you can get, and he's not bad for that. Huh? Never thought about it that way.
I still feel like it's a stretch because the Sinister Syndicate is just always kind of sits on that edge of okay. Like I think it's on the edge of almost being as good as almost the Thunderbolts.
I agree, but that to me that's why it is a thumb sideways because we're going to get to Spot eventually, and Spot is one where Sinister Syndicate would go a long way.
Yeah. On the other end of the spectrum of 25 point. Daniel Burkhart, Sinister Syndicate, 25 points, Scientist and Sinister Syndicate keywords, Secret Identity, Jack-O-Lantern, and Mysterio. Cut Through the Illusions is his other trait. Opposing characters within 4 squares can't use stealth. He's got Perplex. He's got stealth. I can use stealth. You can't use stealth. He's autonomous and has Smoke Cloud. I am willing to take the power action for Smoke Cloud on this guy. Thumbs up.
Agreed.
Thumbs up.
Agreed. Thumbs up for good value for 25 points.
Especially once we look at Mysterio. Alright. Next up, Riot. 65 points, Codex monster keywords, 3 range, ignores elevating and hindering for movement. Tossing weaklings aside is his first trait, which is super strength. When Riot knocks back a character after resolutions, deal 1 damage to that character and all opposing characters adjacent to them. And then he's got the symbiote trait. What do you think of Riot?
Thumbs down. Not good enough. There it is again.
We're back to that.
65 points is decent, but decent is not good enough for the competitive game.
Yeah. Let's look at the Prime then. The Prime Riot. Codex Maximum Carnage monster keywords, 50 points for this one. Has the Maximum Carnage trait. Has the Symbiote Codex Hunter trait. And then his special attack power on his first 3 clicks is Hammer Hands. Quake, Giant Reach 2. When Riot uses Quake and hits, after resolutions, give each hit character an action token. Better than the last. Does have a little bit of an issue with the fact that he does lead with Battle Fury, so you are, if you're looking to carry him, sorry, tough luck. But in an area where I'm comparing him to the previous Riot, I'll definitely play this over him. I still put it a thumb sideways, personally, because it is the Prime slot. It's a pretty stacked slot already. There's a lot of really cool traits, and there's a lot of damage that like a single Quake from this Giant Reach 2 can do once you include the Maximum Carnage and the fact that he's giving in the extra action tokens that they already have an action token. There's a lot of damage potential on this 50-point character. I still kind of put it sideways for me. Tom?
Yeah, he's thumbs down for me because he's a Prime. He'd be thumbs sideways if he wasn't. He can't get over the fact that I must assume that if I was really considering playing in my Prime slot, there's no reason I wouldn't more closely consider either the Scream we haven't talked about yet or the Venom we already have.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Agent Venom. Wildcard team abilities, specifically team player. 6 range, 65 points. Avengers, Codex, Guardians of the Galaxy, Shield, Soldier, Spider-Man keywords. Basically all the same as Flash Thompson. What are the odds? Ignores elevated and hindering for movement. Can make ranged attacks while adjacent to opposing characters. And then first into battle is his first trait. At the beginning of your turn, you may roll a d6. Move Agent Venom up to half the result. If it is your first turn, move him up to the result instead. He has a symbiote trait and then a special defense power on his last 3 clicks of the regular dial or the first 2 clicks of his Secret Identity dial. Go down, swing in, which is super senses and toughness. Yeah, you had to lead on Agent Venom.
I think he's a real good Secret Identity. Boy, he comes out angry. I really like the way that Flash Thompson turns into a Flurry Blades Battle Fury massacre machine. Really quite decent there. So great. 65 points for the rest is not good enough. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Agree on that. Also want to point out is if you're usually keeping your flash like within 3 or 4 squares of your opponent's team, so you could potentially just roll your way into them too with a very very minute like sidestep, extra sidestep, Kenny sidestep I think we call it, into them. It's
Right.
more of an identity
It's
for
at the beginning of your turn.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you've killed me on your turn.
Maybe I'm assuming maybe I pushed to this guy, but
Yeah,
fair point.
But yeah, I mean, he's more of a secret identity than he is a character I'm paying 65 points for. Next up, She-Venom. 60 points, 5 range, 2 targets, codex and monster keywords, ignores hindering for movement, has the symbiote team trait, and then along came a spider. When She-Venom hits, after resolutions, a hit character, gains immobile until your next turn. Oh my goodness. More of a protection or a call. I think it's more of a secret identity for Mary Jane than it is for a character I'm going to pay 60 points for. It's a neat character. The immobile is a really cool effect. Running shot with 2 targets as well, so you can choose your targets, or if you hedge your bets and maybe hit one and leave them immobile. But ultimately, it's more of a sideline piece, I think, for my 15-point Mary Jane. That's a little bit more like the double rollout kind of works for me on the you know what I'm saying on Secret Identity.
You're absolutely correct.
Oh.
She's a thumbs down at 60 points. She's a good Secret Identity. Love the double rollout. Love a mobile. Don't love no willpower. Don't love meager attack values and damage values aren't terribly impressive. She's pretty boring.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Molten Man. 5 range, 75 points. Sinister Syndicate, Spider-Man family keyword. Molten projectiles. Once per turn, when Molten Man makes a range attack. After resolutions, you may generate a blocking terrain marker adjacent to a target. At the beginning of your next turn, replace the blocking terrain with the hindering terrain marker. That remains indefinitely. Special attack power on first 2 clicks, Molten Skin, Poison and Super Strength. When Molten Man uses Poison, he deals penetrating damage and may treat characters adjacent to his blocking terrain markers as if they are adjacent to him. Special defense power, Liquid Metal Alloy from Radioactive Meteorite. Molten Man takes a maximum of 1 damage from attacks and can't be chosen for Mastermind, Protected, Outwit, and Pulse Wave. You go ahead. You got some action with the Molten Man too, so...
I did, and I must say that I think he's a little better than Deathlock for 75 points. He's. I feel like I have to give him a thumbs up, even though it's against my better judgment, because he's not a thumbs up for me personally. But he is a non-unique character that needs to take at least 4 hits to KO him. Now, of course, there are passive forms of damage too, but if you're just dealing damage with attacks. It'll take 4 of him to get through this dial, and all the while he's exchanging between 2 of the most useful damage powers. And he has a full dial of poison that is penetrating for the first 2 clicks, and he can do it through blocking that he generates automatically by targeting people, even if he misses them, which he will, if my experience is any indication.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't hit with this guy, Tom, ever. I've never seen it happen.
No, it's not supposed to hit. All it's supposed to do is hit and then create barrier in an inconvenient spot to poison as many people as possible, but that can go a long way. So he has a lot going for him. I must admit, I can't think of a way to use him in a way that I feel is worth it, and I feel like he'd be eaten alive by any team I'm seriously considering in a competitive game, which is why I feel a bit weird about giving him a thumbs up. But on the other hand, I just can't in good conscience do anything else with a piece that just takes this many hits to take out and has this much good stuff. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the whole package works just yet, but there are smarter people than me in this game. Maybe they'll figure it out.
That's kind of why I put it sideways myself. It's everything about the package reads well, but there's so much about it as well that just might not necessarily work as well. I mean, his cool barrier power is stunted by an outwit of his poison, so I can't touch his defense power, so I can kind of throw off his really cool... so that's why I put it sideways. There's potential. There's so much potential for him, but I'm not the guy playing it. All right. We're hitting the rare slot now with the Green Goblin. 6 range, triple target, Sinister Syndicate team ability, 75 points for the Cabal, Dark Avengers, Politician, Sinister Syndicate, Dark Thunderbolts keyword. Hey, did you know that the Green Goblin starts with pumpkin bombs? Of course, he comes with them. Yet another Sinister 6, adjacent friendly characters with the Sinister Syndicate keyword, modify their attack +1, or +2 if targeting a character with the Spider-Man family keyword, which is everybody soon. Special attack power on all of his clicks for the actual dial, and a first click for the secret identity. A bomb for any occasion. Precision strike, but may use it when attacking 2 or more characters. When given a range destroy action, Green Goblin may destroy up to 3 objects and or pieces of blocking. He does need line of fire 2 each. Green Goblin is unfortunately a 75-point character with a really cool looking dial that lacks the willpower for me to want to play him in competitive play. But if you want your Harry or Norman Osborn to have outwit when they die, not a bad option. So, Secret Identity, I think we have already said most of the Secret Identities are going to be thumbs up for the most part as long as we thumbs up the character. But I'm not playing this Green Goblin for 75 points myself.
You said it. He's a thumbs down. That's not good enough, but he's a decent Secret Identity, so it's worth owning.
Yeah. On that same subject, Mysterio, 5 range, 2 targets, Sinister Syndicate team ability, 50 points, Celebrity, Scientist, and Sinister Syndicate keywords. Illusion Generator, which gets him to start with the Illusion Generator, so he's got shape change as well, guys. Adjacent friendly characters with Sinister Syndicate keyword can use shape change. This is yet another Sinister 6 trait. And then his third trait, what horrors do you see in the smoke? Smoke cloud, and once per turn, Mysterio can use either incapacitate or mind control as free, but only to make a close attack and only to target target characters occupying his smoke markers, regardless of adjacency. Tom, Mysterio, take it away.
What can I say? So he's got kind of like a 6 range incapacitate mind control as long as you very specifically place your smoke. He seems to be almost like designed to be frustrating because my first thought is assign the Nightbringer, and as soon as you do, then you KO the Illusion Generator. So, yeah. I feel like this is becoming a common theme, but he is another one that is a pretty good Secret Identity because he brings out Prob, and Prob is always useful. He's also always backed up with that Illusion Generator, so he gets to come out with Mastermind Shape Change, which makes him kind of difficult to take out, and thus he's a safer pick to turn into his secret identity than some, because there's less of a concern of him turning into a secret identity and just immediately becoming points in your opponent's pocket. As for his own piece, I mean, he's not convincing me at 50 points, I'm afraid. I'm not quite seeing it. He does have double rollouts, which is awesome. He has outwit, which is good, but he's a bit slow to deploy. I don't love his unimpressive range if they don't come to him. He just feels like someone that he's too easy to ignore, I guess would be the best way to put it. He can be frustrating, but I don't think he's doing enough to really punish the team.
Yeah. You're not really getting the bystanders if you're not attacking him, so those aren't a threat. He's not, like, suddenly bringing them out. And he's, like you said, incredibly slow to get going. He doesn't ignore anything for his movement. He's not poofing through his smoke cloud. So, ultimately, on 50 points, I'm thumbs downing it as well. But we gave Daniel Burkhart an enthusiastic thumbs up, and it gets doubly so because, oh shoot, I lost Perplex. How about Prob instead? Yeah, it's just a shame. It's
nothing.
Yeah.
Again, that's what I love about the secret identities, right? Like, there's no downside, but if the upside's worth it, then go for it.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Ghost Spider. 5 range, 2 targets, Spider-Man team ability, 85 points, Celebrity, my Spider-Man family. Ignores elevated and hindering for movement. Ignores characters for line of fire. Gets Dimensional Travel Watch and a special movement power. You don't get to like my haircut. When Ghost Spider is given a move action and moves 5 squares or less after resolutions, she may make an attack. So this is. I kind of alluded to this earlier, is 85 points, it falls under the not good enough. I like that it's indomitable. That is kind of a really good, oh my gosh, this is a really...
What a rarity. Move and attack and indomitable? What sense is this?
And everything about her is already a really solid character. I'm just personally not spending 85 points on that dial. But it's also that 3 clicks at the back end there is why I kind of upped the points on Gwen Stacy's. You get that on top of the Gwen Stacy with a little bit more survivability, the addition of Prob, and that move and attack because you do get the Dimensional Watch when you do it. So It's thumbs sideways for me for the main dial. Leaning towards down as well. It's I get sketchy about super senses being my only kind of way out. But you lose your Gwen Stacy, you gain TK, you gain some prob. I think that's okay. And, you can force the Gwen Stacy in their face. She does have charge and exploit weakness, making her an autonomous nightmare. So that's why a lot of my love came into Gwen Stacy was those last 3 clicks, personally. So I'm justifying my earlier pick. Go ahead,
Sure,
Tom.
by all means. I'll stand by mine, but I will admit that if you manage to get this onto the board, then it's worth it, because it is a really good secret identity. But the piece itself is not worth 85 points, so it's a thumbs down.
No. All right. Marvela.
Broken.
Celebrity and Spider-Man family keyword. And here comes the first of many things that are going to shape the future of theme teams. Ladies and gentlemen, theme teams are an abomination. They are for trashmongers now. Peter, you can be an extra in my superhero movie. Oh, sorry. She's got 3 range, Spider-Man team ability. She's 15 points with the celebrity and Spider-Man family keywords. Peter, you can be an extra in my superhero movie. When establishing theme teams, characters on your starting force with the celebrity keyword gain the Spider-Man family keyword. Special movement power on her first 3 clicks of the normal dial. Sidestep and the flight symbol, but only if Marvela has no action tokens. Tom, Marvela.
Texting with Jay, friend of the show and former long-standing person on the show, Jay, who said, here's a joke for your set review. Says Marvela's the mayor of Value Town, and boy, if we said that Captain America was good for 25 points, what can we say about this for 15? Sidestep barrier is all it needed to be broken for 25 points, let alone 15. For 30 points, every Spider-Man family team, which is every team, now has a rotating barrier. That is so broken. And that's not all, because they also now can invite as many celebrities to the party as they want. You've got a sidestepping taxi. She's not always a taxi, it depends on interaction tokens, but nevertheless. And she's got empower and enhancement. Or not enhancement,
just empower.
Incapacitate.
Yeah, incapacitated.
And she's a wild card too, of course. Why wouldn't she be? She's busted. She's incredible. I mean, yes, I am absolutely building with her. I will likely lose, but that's because everybody is going to build with her. Why wouldn't they? She's unbelievably good. I would argue the best piece in the set.
It's definitely up there. Resounding thumbs up. The keyword cheating is about to get nuts, and this is just the tip of the iceberg as to what the options available are. So
at least celebrity is not one that you see a lot of, unlike some to follow.
But there's some keynote celebrities that get a little bit of an more ability to join some more teams. Looking at Mojo as one, this is very specific. Does lots in the WWE stuff. It's not an uncommon keyword. It's just it's definitely not low in the rare of pirate or pilot or either of those two. But it's kind of starting to.
But it ain't robot either.
No, it is not. All right. Next up, Iron Patriot. 125 points, team players, 7 range, armor, cabal, dark avengers, hammer, initiative, scientist, keywords, ignores hindering for line of fire, special damage power on the first 3 clicks of the normal, the first click in secret identity. I lead the avengers better than you do. Leadership, perplex, unique modifier when Iron Patriot uses perplex, he may instead choose a single combat value other than damage to modify +1 on all friendly characters that share a keyword with him within 6 squares and line of fire. This falls under the too expensive for normal competitive play. Might be my include for Norman Osborn. But this is one of those things, is we need something big and meaty for Seal. Let's put it in the set. So, I'm not... thumbs down for competitive play. Possible option if you got Norman Osborn on your team. Tom?
Yeah, you said it. Complete agreement on every point.
All right, cool. Next up then, the Hobgoblin. 6 range, 2 targets, Sinister Syndicate, 75 points, Monster Mystical, Sinister Syndicate team or keywords, Pumpkin Bombs to start, his yet another Sinister Syndicate gives adjacent characters Blades, Claws, Fangs. I can smell your sins. Once per turn, when an opposing character hits, you may give that opposing character a sin token. Characters with sin tokens can't use shape change, and Hobgoblin has free, make an attack, but only to target characters with sin tokens. When a character with a sin token clears action tokens, they may remove one of their sin tokens. Go ahead, Tom.
Let me say this. I love, like, the Hobgoblin has always been my favorite of the goblins. He's so cool looking, and I like his storylines more. So I'm happy to see a Hobgoblin, and the sculpt just looks boss. They didn't choose one of my favorite versions of Green Goblin for his sculpt, but they certainly did an awesome job on Hobgoblin. So I know we're talking about meta-competitive pieces and yada yada yada, but I'm real happy to own this Hobgoblin. Rock on. Big thumbs up for having Hobgoblin. Kind of a thumbs down for the actual piece itself. It actually does happen to be my favorite of the 3 goblins that we got, but that doesn't mean that it's enough to push him over the edge. I do like the only thing I like about him is the fact that he puts your opponent into this interesting position that if they hit somebody, they lose their shape change, and thus it forces a Sophie's choice of sorts on your opponent, and that's cool. In fact, I think that's most useful if you can bring it in on Secret Identity, since at least it will make them possibly think twice. It's not enough to make the piece playable, but it is an interesting effect, and I always like complicating my opponent's turns. They'll make more mistakes if they are second-guessing themselves.
Absolutely. I got nothing to add.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next up, Jack-O-Lantern. 6 range, Sinister Syndicate team ability, 60 points. Sinister Syndicate, Skeleton Crew, Thunderbolts keywords. Starts with Pumpkin Bombs. Hallucinogenic Pumpkin Bomb is his other trait. Smoke Cloud is free, but only to generate 3 markers. When an opposing character occupying one of Jack-O-Lantern's smoke markers makes an attack, characters they would target can use Shape Change. It's a neat effect. It's just, again, not on the dial I want to play. A lot of the guys using the gliders just seem to not be exciting, and I think a part of it is it's like
the flying short range running shot pieces are really like not batting well here.
Yeah, it's with pumpkin. Anybody armed with pumpkin bombs is just disappointing. I think. So, there's a better option for Daniel Burkhart. I'm not using Jason Massendale Jr. So I'm not even high on the Secret Identity, to be honest. So,
agreed.
A shame.
Agreed.
All right, next up, Spot.
Yeah, man.
Sinister Syndicate team ability, 50 points. Hydra, Modox 11, Magia, Scientist, Sinister Syndicate team ability. Yet another Sinister 6. When an adjacent friendly character with the Sinister Syndicate keyword is given a move action, they may replace their speed value with 10. Here, there, and everywhere. It's phasing teleport. Phasing teleport is free, but half speed. Death of 1,000 spots. Flurry. When Spot makes a close attack, he may target an opposing character within 4 squares, regardless of adjacency. When an opposing character targets Spot with a close attack and misses, after resolutions, deal that character 1 damage. Spot. What do you think?
He gets a thumbs up from me. It's not an enthusiastic one, but this is one that kind of makes me believe that someone's going to figure out something cool to do with 2 or 3 of him. This is one I mentioned earlier, that the Sinister Syndicate will go a long way, because the best thing about Spot is the fact that he's got the cool ability. He's got an unassisted swing of 9 for that flurry, so he can go 9 in flurry, or he could potentially go more than that, because with a TK it becomes 15 in flurry. With some perplexes and a TK it becomes 18 in flurry, which at this point you're almost the entire map. So it's cool to be able to do that, and it's especially cool because that flurry is targeting within 4 squares regardless of adjacency, so you can make sure to hit the target that you want. And you're also, for what it's worth, your opponent's less likely to be able to prob you if you happen to be punching them with a wall in between. So this is all good stuff. Where the issue lies is the fact that he's got a 10 and 2, and this is why you want to get as much bang for your buck out of your modifiers as you can. So you're looking for cheap empowers, you're looking for Sinister Syndicate or wild card pieces with high attack values that he can copy off of, and I'll bet that there is some combination of that out there that somebody will be able to come up with, play a couple or 3 spots, and just punch through the never-ending Marvela barriers that are bound to be a thing after this. Spot can just punch regardless of them. All it takes is 1 empower to take out one of the Marvelas. This is a very specific example, I know, but all the same, it still counts. So I think that there's things that you can do with Spot, and given the fact that he is staying behind as much terrain or other people as he can, then he has some survivability on top of the 18 with super senses, and you kind of don't want to attack him unless you're fairly confident of being able to hit him, because otherwise you might damage yourself. So all these are good things. I think that Spot has a potential.
I'm about to say a bunch of dumb things. I agree with you. Spot's got a ton of potential. And I'm about to say some really dumb things here. First of all, Jason Massendale with a 10 movement is going to be really good.
Yeah,
and the fact that he's going to give Spot an 11 attack makes him a little better. This is one of those situations where a thumbs down is still justified, but this is what we're talking about, is a character can take something like this and go, hey, how about that? We found a use for him. So when he's moving all that, and with Spot, you are worried about the Mystics team ability. Well, not anymore with Jason Massendale nearby, right? So
yeah, fair.
There's a lot of utility to that character as long as he's next to Spot.
Yeah, and then I'm glad that you brought it up, because it's a good example of the fact that thumbs down does not equate bad figure. Thumbs down just means it's going to hit your team at the point at which it's filling a gap you never knew existed, but you're not reaching for it first. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. We talked about this character. Do we have to talk about this again? White Rabbit?
No, it's bad. It only creates bunnies if it hits. It won't hit it as a 17 defense. It's basically unprotected. I don't care. It's bad.
All right, cool. Moving on. Iron Spider. 4 range, 2 targets, Sinister Syndicate, 75 points, Armor, Magia, Sinister Syndicate, Spy keywords, ignores elevated and hindering from movement, gets to start with the Waldo arms, talked about those earlier, yet another Sinister 6, adjacent friendly characters with the Sinister Syndicate keyword may replace your defense value with 18, and then special damage power on his first 3 clicks or first click of the secret identity dial. I've got the talent, the plan, and the crew to pull this off. Leadership and outwit. When Iron Spider uses leadership and succeeds, choose an equipped opposing character. When the chosen character is hit this turn, unequip it. So this is one of those utility characters that does a really weird thing that I want to work a lot better than it'll probably end up working for me. Like that special damage power, it seems so cool. I make a leadership roll. Yeah, character gets unequipped. What do you mean you made your shape change roll with your remaker? Right? But at the same time, if you do make that hit, you've now scored 5 points just off of that hit because you actually unequip it, and an unequip on the ring is a 5-point KO, right? So. Right. 2.5, one or the other. But the problem is, it's a 75-point investment on a non-will powered character. The Waldo arms are cool, but they're not making this guy cool enough for me. So it's a thumbs down for a character that I spent too much time talking about. Go ahead.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. So let's move to our favorite video game character, Carrion. Carrion. 50 points.
Very aggravating villain.
Yeah. Maximum Carnage, Monster, and Scientist keywords. Ignores hindering for movement. Maximum Carnage trait. Drain until you're dry. When an adjacent opposing character begins a move after resolutions, you may place Carrion adjacent to that character. Rotting Touch is special attack power on his first 3 clicks. Poison. When Carrion uses it and damages an opposing character after resolutions, he deals 1 penetrating damage to each adjacent opposing character. Go ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do have to give him a thumbs down if we're speaking about the competitive game. I love all the sources of penetrating damage here. I love the exploit weakness and the poison that turns into penetrating damage, and the maximum carnage which deals penetrating damage. Just Carrion really has an amazing ability to get the damage out. The problem is he'll never get the opportunity to do it, because without better move and attack or more opportunities, it doesn't matter if he follows your opponent around. He just gets KO'd too easily. So I'm afraid that I can't really give him an endorsement when I'm reasonably certain he's easy 50 points for my opponent. But I really like the design. He's one of my favorite pieces for casual.
Absolutely. It's one of those characters that when he works, he's frustrating. But he's not going to work in certain environments. Next, we move to... Go ahead.
Let's talk about something real good.
Agent Anti-Venom. 6 range, Spider-Man team ability, 75 points. Avengers, Codex, Monster, Shield, Soldier, Spider-Man family keywords. Ignores elevated and hindering from movement. Cleansing powers. Support as free. Oh, baby. Symbiote trait, and then a special damage power on his first click on the 75-point dial. Outwit. Once per turn, when Agent Anti-Venom uses it, after resolutions, he can outwit at no cost, but only to target a character with the Spider-Man family or monster keyword. This is the first time I'm actually reading this card, and I'm pretty impressed. Free support's really cool. It is indomitable. It's got charge and ignores elevated and hindering. He protects himself with some shape change. He's got a really high defense with close combat. With combat reflexes. And of course, we talked about Flash Thompson earlier. He's a really good call-in as alternative to Flash Thompson when you can use support twice in a turn. Right?
That's what I want. When I said really good, I meant the secret identity.
Yeah.
The actual figure is still a thumbs down.
Yeah, it's a lot of good things that get a thumbs down for competitive play, except when you're using Flash Thompson, when you're really excited and getting this double support. Tom said support's really good when you can use it. When you can use it twice, it's even better.
And the best protection against support is stand next to the guy, and he's got poison. So great, love that.
Stay nearby, I dare you.
Yeah.
I hope you want to make an attack against that 19 defense with shape change. All right. Next up, Scream. 40 points. Codex monster keyword. Ignores elevated and hindering from movement. Plasticity and shape change. Because it's a symbiote. And then special attack power on his first two clicks. Her first two clicks, sorry. Killer haircut. Blaze Claw's Fangs, Giant Reach 3. When Scream uses Blaze Claw's Fangs, the result is 5 or 6. After resolutions, remove an action token from her. You go ahead, Tom. I just got to quickly disappear for a second.
Yeah, by all means. This piece really kind of pushes the boundary for me about how cheap is cheap enough to consider a piece that doesn't have great mobility, and I think that she just barely does. What I like about this piece at 40 points is the fact that she does have at least a swing of 5, quote-unquote swing of 5, because the Giant Reach 3 combines with her sidestep. She's pretty well protected with the double rollouts to begin with. She's not that great in and of herself, but a couple or 3 screams as a front line are really quite annoying, and they kind of require you to deal with them, because Blades is one of those unpredictable powers that can really go in your favor. So she is a good example of someone who's just barely good enough. You've used a lot of not good enough. We've said a lot of that in this particular episode. She is one that to me is just barely good enough. She is not the sort of piece, and I think I said this about the Carnage minion earlier, and I'm going to say it again when we get to the Spider Carnage later. So spoiler alert, because a lot of the pieces fall into the same category. But she is one of the ones that isn't really the one who's likely doing the damage, but she is the one who's commanding your opponent's attention enough to enable those who are, because they can't afford to just leave her alone. And that was my point about Gwen, is I feel like I can leave Gwen alone, and I'm picking on Gwen, but there are several examples of pieces that if I feel like I can leave them alone, their stock goes down. I can't leave Scream alone, and at 40 points, I think that might be just good enough.
Yeah, 100% agree. And she caught me off guard with that Giant Reach 3 when you were playing her against me. It's like, I thought I had the Giant Reach 3.
Yeah, if only my Blades rolls were as good as everything else. I couldn't miss an attack, but my Blades always sucked.
Yeah. But yeah, 100% agree. Like, she's... when it's at, like, the opposite of diminishing returns. It's like, the more you get of her, the scarier she gets.
Yeah, it's appreciating the returns.
Appreciating returns. There it is. We move to her prime. For 10 points more, Codex Maximum Carnage monster keyword with 5 range. Ignores elevated and hindering again. Maximum Carnage trait. Symbiote Codex Hunter trait. Then her special attack, Lashing Hair Whip. Blaze Claw's Fangs, Precision Strike, Giant Reach 3. And then she's got the Mother of Monsters on her last 4 clicks. Support is free, but only to target characters with the monster keyword. So this is 10 points more for less excitement, in my opinion. It's very similar in the fact that you got the double rollout, you got the leadership, which, it's a cool thing, and she's got move and attack. So you get the 8 square reach with it. And of course, Maximum Carnage really goes well. You can keep her alive if you get some kills with those blades, because blades can go your way. It's just that you lose that reach with some of that reach with a simple outwit, and you actually lose 2 of your really good powers, which is unfortunate. And again, she comes in the prime slot, which is stacked right now.
Yep.
And
Prime's what kills it, man.
yeah, that was just a shame. And it's really weird because once again we've done this thing. WizKids, would you pay attention when you do this? There's a lot of characters here that wouldn't these guys all work together as a team? I guess I have to read Absolute Carnage. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know offhand whether they would work together or not from a story perspective, but certainly from an effectiveness within the game perspective, then their dials would stack up quite nicely. So, yeah. I mean, kind of a challenge when this was the decision on what to do with the Prime theme. I think I agree with where you were going with that. It's a thumbs down as a Prime. It is a thumbs sideways if it wasn't, but it is. So
yeah. I you know what? I'm gonna go back and just say maybe I'm kind of jumping the gun and on the whole like, hey, why are we having primes that seem to work together? I'm gonna have to read this book before I say that. It's more egregious when it's like the what's it called? Squadron Supreme when they did that.
Yeah, Squadron Supreme.
Yeah. All right, next up, Shriek. So from Scream to Shriek, loud noise. It's like my house when the kids are home. Maximum Carnage and monster keywords. 6 range, 45 points. Maximum Carnage trait, Sonic Outburst. If Shriek has no action tokens, she can use Pulse Wave. And a special. So just for confusion's sake, a lot of us have a nasty habit of putting our action tokens on before we finish our action. You technically don't get it until the action resolves. So just note that, guys. And then Sonic Scream, Penetrating Psychic Blast. When Shriek uses it, targeted characters can't use super senses this turn, including for this attack. Tom.
Yeah. Thumbs up. Just barely again, but good enough for 45 points. Running Shot Side Blast and potentially Running Shot Pulse Wave. And of course, if she hits with that Pulse Wave, then she Maximum Carnages out from there. So I think that there's a fair amount of damage potential for the points here. I mean, partly it's just she's a little better than some of the other points in the sub 50 point, or some of the other figures in the sub 50 point bracket that we talked about so far, and that's what's putting her over the top. Maybe I also just really like the character, and that's influencing my thinking a little bit. Maybe in my mind she costs 35 points. Whatever it is, I don't hate her.
I'm hearing that really loud kabang noise that she made in the Maximum Carnage game now. Kabang! But at 45 points, the package that you're getting is really solid, and I can't argue with this. You know, when you go below 50 and you don't have Indomitable, you're allowed to look like this. It is a solid bargain basement or bargain bin glass cannon, and it's okay because I didn't spend much on the glass. All right. Next up, Scorn.
Good analogy.
6 range, 2 targets, 85 points, Codex, Monster, and Robot keywords. Plasticity and shape change because she's a symbiote. Techno Hybrid is her other trait. Free, roll a d6. On a 4 to 6, remove an action token from a friendly character with the robot character within 3 squares in line of fire. And then special damage power on her first 3 clicks, Techno Inhibitor and Ammunition, Outwit, but may choose 2 powers if one of them is a standard defense power. Sorry, it's mine. All right, so this is one of those characters that you spend a lot of points on to get a lot of value on a lot of lower point characters. And the fact that the Techno Inhibitor or the Techno Hybrid thing is what really kind of catches me for her. What's more, though, is if she's not on a robot team, she can use that on herself because she's friendly. It doesn't say another character. She's friendly to herself. It's kind of like all the rules of Perplex. So she's friendly to herself. She's within line of fire in 3 squares of herself. So pop an action token off as a free action on a 50-50 shot. So not terrible. But it is a very soft dial with only kind of plasticity stopping things. Yes, she does have energy shield. I've said I've liked energy shield in the past, and I've always been let down by it. The outwit is cool, but you are limited that one of them has to be a defense, so you're outwitting something else as well. And it's usually the target that you initially wanted. Though, again, Super Senses and Outwit, or Super Senses and Shape Change is a very frequent combination, and both of those are not defense powers. So one of them's defense power, one of them's not. So ultimately, I've talked a lot about a character I'm going to give a thumbs sideways, very specifically because there's, I think, something with her to robots, but it's that whole thing where it's like you're over-investing to make smaller, more bargain characters a little bit more appealing. Go ahead, Tom. Tell me I'm wrong.
It's not so much that you're wrong. I just think that you're being very charitable.
I am being very charitable.
I think she's pretty bad for 85 points, and she's getting a thumbs down from me.
All right. Next up, Spider Carnage. 40 points. Codex, Maximum Carnage, Monster Keywords, Maximum Carnage trait, Symbiote Codex Hunter trait, Special Movement Power, Special Movement Power. I don't know why they have it listed as attack in the thing there. So I'm trying to cover it. Nobody can see me covering it. 6-Arm Terror, Leap, Climb, and Sidestep. Power, make 3 close attacks, maximum damage value of 3. Tom, what do you think, Spider Carnage?
This is a thumbs up from me. Influenced maybe slightly by the fact that it played well for me on the weekend, but it is the same logic that we talked about with the Carnage minion at 30. This is basically a deeper dial that adds a little bit of protection with the super senses in favor of combat reflexes and the ability to heal yourself back with the Codex thing. And of course, this isn't just flurry. This is make 3 attacks rather than 2. That's enough to justify 10 points in my view. It's not a unique piece. And again, a couple of these things thrown into your opponent's face, they're not easy to deal with the double rollouts. And you kind of need to deal with them because Battle Fury and Precision Strike is getting through all of your important defenses, and making 3 attacks is pretty meaningful. And if you can combine that with KOing anything and heal back from any pushing damage you're taking, then you're offsetting your lack of willpower somewhat. And the Maximum Carnage is spreading out and doing more damage. So you can't leave this 40-point piece alone, and you can't deal with it as easily as you would expect to be able to deal with a piece that costs 40 points. That's enough of a combination to make me think it's a fringe possibility, so thumbs up.
100% agree. Bargain for what you're getting. Massive amounts of damage potential.
Dude.
All right. Moving into the super rares, starting with Absolute Carnage, the name of the set. There's 3 possible dials you can play. Is 200 points gets an 11-click dial that you're looking at there. 125 points gets you starting at the 4th click there, and 125, and then for 60 points you get the last 5 clicks. Codex, Maximum Carnage, and Monster Keywords. Ignores elevated and hindering terrain for movement. Carnage Symbiote lets him apply this Carnage Symbiote, so effectively he has Codex Symbiote. Codex Symbiote Hunter. Spreading my symbiotes across a world is his 2nd trait. Flurry, Giant Reach 3. When Absolute Carnage KOs an opposing character of 25 points, 25 or more points, after resolutions, you may generate a Carnage minion in that character's square. Maximum Carnage trait, of course. And then a special damage power. You get this on the first 3 clicks of 200 and the first click of 125. Fear and Loathing coming for you. Battle Fury, Leadership, Probability Control. Other characters with the Maximum Carnage keyword modify attack +1. I didn't realize how that read until a little late in my game against Tom. That doesn't specify friendly, guys. That is all Maximum Carnage keyword characters, so careful with that.
Now watch out.
Yeah. But that said, this is the definition of a character who is super fun. I am not bringing this to competitive play, though. There's a lot of really cool stuff he does. It's just he's not bringing that package for me at all. And I gotta say, nothing feels better than watching your opponent go when you say probability control coming from Carnage.
It is weird, right?
It's just like
leadership too.
Yeah, it's like, wait, who has leadership? Carnage. Who has prob? Carnage. What? You know who doesn't have protection from Outwit? Carnage. As I discovered in my game against Tom. So ultimately, for all the flair and coolness that this guy brings, he's a solid thumbs down for me.
Yeah, at 200 points, he is absolute garbage. Just not worth it at all. So outwinnable. At 60 points, I'm going to give a thumbs sideways because I think someone might be able to do something with it. He does get an awful lot for 60 points with the Giant Reach 3, and he's charging Flurry Blades for Plex. He gets to heal off people. He gets to generate minions if he's KOing people, and his Maximum Carnage is spreading out the damage and all that stuff. 60 points is the only thing we're talking about, though. I think everything else is way overcosted for somebody who's not protected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll jump on like sideways for the 60 point. It's just not a thing I'm going to be considering personally. Captain Venom still exists.
Now, as for people who are protected, that's a whole different story.
How about Null? Power Cosmic team ability, 250 points or 125 points. Basically, if you're looking at, we're going to look at the 250 point dial for the whole picture. The charged clicks are the starting lines. Codex, Cosmic, Deity, Maximum Carnage, and Monster keywords. The first symbiote, My Shadow, is his first trait, which lets him start with the all black the Necro Sword. God of Symbiotes, Plasticity, but has Breakaway +3, and opposing characters have Breakaway -3 instead. Shape Change, but succeeds on a 4 to 6 when Null KOs an opposing character after resolutions, heal 2 clicks. It's just in general. It doesn't care what your keywords are. Umbra Kinesis, Stealth, Smoke Cloud as free, but generates obscuring terrain markers instead. Free, place Null in a square of obscuring terrain within 4 squares. Tom, what do you think of Null?
Whew. I mean, like I said at the beginning, like this guy is a sealed killer, and I know we're not talking sealed, but
Right.
boy.
Ugh.
Now, incredible swing with the combination of obscuring terrain to place within 4, plus charging 6 and giant reaching 2. Is that 12? Yeah, that's pretty good. Here's the thing, and I just can't get over it. Pulse Wave just ruins his day. And there is enough Pulse Wave, like we are talking about the competitive game. I can't get behind spending 250 points on a figure who just folds like wet paper when you hit him with Pulse Wave. Even if you're not going with Pulse Wave, it is the competitive game, and right now a very common thing in the competitive game is Black Widow, and Black Widow also kind of ruins his day. Now, he still gets at least his defense powers and stuff, so that's something. But he loses his stealth, he loses his plasticity, he loses his shape change, and shortly thereafter he loses several clicks of life because everyone just dogpiles and beats the crap out of him. I do think that 2 of him at 125 apiece, if that is doable, I don't think he's unique, and there's no reason you can't play the object twice if
it's starting with him. The uniqueness is kind of overset.
That's safe. So I think 2 of him at 125 each could be pretty scary. But, I mean, it also gets scary as soon as you take the damage necessary to get down to those last 3 clicks where you're really just hoping regen works because you're not doing much else. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not convinced, but I must say that because Pulse Wave is such a killer, it is something that I would feel nervous about playing myself. But I think people will, because Pulse Wave is not in every game. No. And if you're not against it, then a 50-50 rollout, in addition to everything else you see, and the fact that he's just cutting through people like a hot knife through butter, really does mean something. So I have to give him a thumbs sideways. In fact, no, I have to give him a thumbs up. He's good. He's not good for me. I would not feel comfortable with it. But if you would, please play him, because he is real nasty.
A lot of what you said really covers it. To just kind of add on, as a plus, both of his starting lines do have Outwit, so there is that light protection for the Pulse Wave if you really are worried about it. Most of the characters that are packing it right now aren't Power Cosmic or Quintessence, if I remember correctly, or at least the ones in the competitive game that we were aware of. But like you said, a single Black Widow takes away his plasticity, his shape change, his stealth, and his smoke cloud. So it's kind of rough going for him in a situation where if you pay 125 points, 100 points is his nightmare. That said, that same Black Widow isn't going to have any shape change or super senses when he is throwing the sword, because we do have to remember he's got the giant reach too, packing that sword, and so he's not going to lose those abilities from the sword. So
yeah, totally.
I agree with you. A thumbs up. It's just not us, not us piloting him. All right. Next up, the Doppelganger. 60 points, Maximum Carnage, monster keyword. Has the Maximum Carnage trait. Maternal Bond is the second trait. At the beginning of your turn, if Doppelganger is within 4 squares of a friendly character named Shriek, remove an action token from him. His third trait, Razor Web. Smoke Cloud is free, but only to generate 1 marker. If an opposing character moves through that marker after resolutions, deal that character 1 penetrating damage. And his special movement power in his first 3 clicks is Charge and Flurry. I think we talked about this guy in the past. Has anything changed about him from there? Or?
No, he's I think that's what I said before was that he's a damage dealing machine, and that is still true. I feel like he's the next step in that graduation of like Carnage Minion, Spider Carnage, Doppelganger.
Yeah.
He's very similar to the Carnage Minion. I think that he's a thumbs up for that. But I think he is a fringy play. Like somebody very skilled will have to be the one to make this really work. Side note: I really wish that his razor webs dealt penetrating damage to the character that moves through, as opposed to opposing. We are sadly lacking in effective ways of damaging your own characters. It would have been a great opportunity.
Agreed. And that's the thing. Razor Web started on somebody who's probably going to be sidestepping and just pause their movement for a turn. I think you're probably not going to do a ton of damage with a Razor Web, but you are going to stop formation with it. I think that's going to be the best effect on it. Unless they're really like, whatever, I'm going to take the damage. Okay, bonus, right? And like you said, it's that next progression on possible damage being dealt from a lot of sources from this guy. All right. His Prime version, for 5 more points, ignores elevated and hindering for movement, has a Codex, Cosmic, Maximum Carnage, Monster, and Mystical keywords, has a Maximum Carnage trait, has a Symbiote Codex Hunter trait, Perfect Killing Machine has a special movement power, Charge and Flurry. Once per turn, when Doppelganger uses Flurry, if he hits with both attacks, after resolutions, he can immediately use Charge at no cost, but only to target characters he hasn't attacked this turn. Special defense power, Spider Clone, combat reflexes, super senses, and toughness. So we get to this is slightly more defended than the previous one. 5 more points. You get a very light version of the Vulture Charge Flurry combo, all actually in a single package. And because it has that Symbiote Codex Hunter, you do have a little bit of bonus on the rollout to break away from the character, assuming they survived your 12 attack, 3 damage Flurry. So I think it being the Prime knocks it down to a sideways for me. But there's potency to the Prime Doppelganger, and the amount of damage that it does is really good, and it has a little bit more protection than its 5 point less non-Prime version. So
Yeah, in fact, I kind of forgot that the non-prime version didn't have the shape change, since it's so common. I have to kind of downgrade him to a thumb sideways, remembering that the only protection he has is the 18 combat reflexes. And for this doppelganger, I'm with you. It's kind of it's got to be a bit of a sideways, because if you can find a way for this to be the prime you want, then it is a pretty effective damage dealing machine, and that's cool. But he is outclassed by other primes, as is so often the case, and so. I don't think that it's a strong endorsement. It's got to be on just the right team, and I can't think of it, but maybe you can.
All right, next up, the one who has been lovingly referred to as the Trash Can Spider-Man. Reporter, scientist, Spider-Man family keywords, has a Spider-Man team ability. He is 60 points. He starts with the trash can object in your starting area, and... as well, when Spider-Man starts the game, an opponent generates a J. Jonah Jameson bystander anywhere on the map. Special attack power in the first 2 clicks, 4 hoodlums at once. When Spider-Man makes a close attack, he instead targets all adjacent opposing characters. He is indomitable. J. Jonah Jameson for a quick glance. Spider-Man is a mentally disturbed menace and false-faced freak. Spider-Man's a mentally disturbed menace and a false-faced freak. It gives him perplex, but can only target himself or opposing characters with the Spider-Man family keyword. It also has sidestep. So that's what you're giving your opponent to start anywhere on the map. Tom.
You know, this guy is bananas, and we talked about him before, about the fact that that hypersonic and attack everybody around is super good. You know, you can crank up his value, send him into a crowd of people, and do an unbelievable amount of damage. I, for one, cannot get over the fact that you place that J. Jonah Jameson anywhere on the map, because, to be honest, this was a piece that I was really seriously considering in the team that I'm putting together for Worlds, and was almost on there until I remembered the fact that J. Jonah was created anywhere on the map, and it just is too much disruption to your objects. I don't like giving my opponent the ability to go and pick up my rings. And J. Jonah Jameson does exactly that. J. Jonah can also stand in front of somebody and force you to deal with him, which is oftentimes done by KOing him, which then activates retaliation, or you're trying to like do awkward things to get around him or move in spite of him so as to not generate that retaliation. Like J. Jonah Jameson is really disruptive and aggravating and annoying. And he kind of kills it for me, because if you happen to be able to put together a team that is not going to be terribly disrupted by that, maybe you have excellent mobility, maybe you're not requiring objects, maybe you're only playing heavy specials and thus you're not so worried about his ability to just grab them and walk across the field with them, then I do think that this is an absolutely bonkers good use of 60 points. No question about the skills and powers of this dial, but Jonah is more disruptive than he might seem in the competitive setting. So, this guy's too good for casual, but in a way, J. Jonah Jameson is too disruptive to make him too good for competitive. I'm still going to give him a thumbs up because I just cannot give this dial anything other than that. It is really, really good.
Yeah.
But the disruption of J. Jonah makes me not want to play him personally. Nevertheless, crazy good.
I mean, him being on a Spider-Man family too, there are ways of getting rid of Jonah that aren't really going to trigger things. I think Mary Jane specifically, but that's a very specific edge case. Like that's how I, in my head, would try to deal with the Jonah if they're going to.
No, not really. She's on every team going forward. So not that much of an edge case.
That's right, because everybody's Spider-Man family. Oops.
Right.
But yes, I agree with you. Thumbs up to the dial. I might not be the one playing him, but he's really good. And he's hard to score too, because of the effect of the trash can object, where it's like, okay, well, now I'm Peter Parker over here and I'm probbing instead. I'm a little tentative about using him as the identity for a number of reasons, one of which was the J. Jonah Jameson. They get him all of a sudden as well, because when Spider-Man starts the game, Jameson, you don't get the trash can with him when you identity him. That's fine, but I'm 2.5 on one or the other as the identity on him. All right. Next up, the Superior Spider-Man. 4 range, Spider-Man team ability, 85 points. Avengers, Scientist, Sinister Syndicate, Spider-Man family keywords. Ignores elevated and hindering for movement. He can start with the Waldo arms. He actually comes packaged with the Waldo arms. He's got a special movement power in his first 4 clicks, which is Charge, Flurry, Plasticity. And this is one of those guys that's a really great character to get in sealed, because those Waldo arms just put him over the top with the Charge, Flurry, which is already strong. But kind of like Ghost Spider, it's just not a character I want on my team for competitive play for 85 points. There's potential, but it's not the potential I can necessarily see. There's a lot of attacks on this guy, so I want to be more positive about him. I just wish it was more, I don't know. Tom, talk me up, or
you're unfortunately, I'm in exactly the same place as you. I have to give him a thumb sideways for the principal reason that I said I was going to give thumbs sideways, which was I'm not sure. I'm really not. I was like, my first thought is not good enough. I don't know. He's really good, but he's so not nearly as good as so much of what is really good in the game right now. And so because of that, then someone's got to prove it to me, I guess. I just don't. He doesn't do anything that's truly unique, and that's we've been getting very excited about pieces that are just crazy point efficient, or pieces that do unique, unexpected things. He is neither of those. He's not crazy point efficient. He's good, but he's not crazy, and he's not really that unique. He's not. He's kind of just very good at running across the field and hitting you in close combat several times, and so. There are lots of close combat pieces that are good at that. He's not meaningfully better than a lot of them, so he's just a good piece.
All right.
That's not enough.
Yeah. All right. Venom Captain Marvel. 110 points with 6 range. Avengers, Codex, Cosmic, Guardians of the Galaxy, Kree, and Monster keywords. This character can move through blocking. It ignores blocking and breaks through it when moving. That has a symbiote trait. And then call in help from the Venomverse. When Venom Captain Marvel hits an opposing character, if no character has been placed this turn, after resolutions you may roll a d6 on a 3 to 6. Place another friendly character whose name includes Venom adjacent. Then Higher, Further, Hungrier, which is Steel Energy. And then the Tongue Sash, which is Quake, which is special attack power on everything but the first 2 clicks. Quake, Captain Venom deals penetrating damage. In general, deals penetrating damage. What do you think of Venom Captain Marvel?
I'm yawning because that's kind of my take on it. It's a thumbs down. I'm so sorry. It is 110 points, and that is a big pill to swallow for another outwit-proof piece. Hypersonic is great. Going through blocking is great. There's quite a bit to like, and I love the steel energy and all that. But I don't know, man. That is a lot of points. And it needs to do something really cool as opposed to just being good at Heroclix, and again, it is. So it's kind of exactly the same as the Superior Spider-Man in that respect. Absolutely respectable for the points, and I don't mean to come down hard if this is your favorite piece in Heroclix, because, you can probably make magic with it, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, agreed. Next up, Venom Doctor Strange, who comes in at either 90 or 45 points. So 45 points is going to be the last 3 clicks. We'll leave the 90 point up there. 7 range Defenders team ability, as well as the Mystics team ability. Avengers Codex, Defenders, Midnight Suns, Monster, and Mystical keywords. It can make can make attacks while adjacent as far as improved targeting. Summon help from the Venomverse as well. Has a symbiote trait, which gives a plasticity shape change.
I should point out, this one's a little different. This one's summon help from the Venomverse, which is different than call-in help, so it's worth reading.
Summon help. You're correct, because he is Doctor Strange. And then it was my decision to bring you all together. Is a special damage power, either the first 2 clicks on the 90-point dial and the first click on what will be the 45-point dial, or third to last on the 90-point dial. Anyway, and this one is
the summon actually is a different power, is what I'm saying.
When Venom hits an opposing character, if no character has been placed this turn after resolutions, you may roll d6. Choose a character on your sideline whose name includes Venom. Of equal or less points to place adjacent. This game, that character can't be carried, replaced, or be replaced, and returns to your sideline at the beginning. Oh, so it's like an ID call in if you hit. Cool. That's actually a little bit better. You're right. And then it was my decision to bring you all together, which is leadership probability control on the special damage power. So that said, I'm actually a little bit more excited with this guy on the 45-point dial, to be brutally honest, just as that little bit of extra support. It's both leadership and prob, as well as a third string. I say a third string. Running shot 11 attack with 3 damage is pretty solid. But it's also got telekinesis for 45 points, which is a good inclusion on, Mysticals getting this support bump that it kind of lost with rotation and is getting kind of back into the game with. It's got that last dial, that last click pulse wave if you happen to be on there. The summon help from the Venomverse is really kind of the thing that makes me go, mwah. It's pretty. Because...
kind of limited at 45 in terms of options.
It is, but we got something we're going to talk about in a second that is an option. But... so at 45, that's less exciting. There's an option, but it's not great. Ultimately, it's a fairly well-protected support piece. It's got shape change and super sensitive 45. It's got the same thing if you're going for the 90-point solid meaty attacker. I feel it's an overinvestment, a little soft, but 45 points is where I kind of sit. And it punishes your opponent for killing that 45 points. So, that's where I stand on it. What do you think, Tom?
I agree. This one's a thumbs up for me. This one fits into my rubric of doing things for a great economy. For 45 points, having leadership and prob control, arguably the 2 best powers in the game, and TK, which is also a highly useful one. And, of course, you can, as you say, pull in a fantastic piece we're about to talk about, or himself. So if you sideline another version of him, he's not unique. You could always hit somebody and then call another version of him to try to hit them again. Yeah. That's enough for me. I think that he's a good piece and will have his place.
Yeah. All right. So next up, Venom Groot. Ooh. Oof, jeez. Codex, Guardians of the Galaxy, monster keyword, 35 points. Ignores elevated hindering for movement, has a symbiote trait. Call in help from the Venomverse, which is the normal call in help. Next, regrown from a twig and from a drop. When Venom Groot is KO'd, instead of putting him in your KO area, turn him to click number 1 and put him on his card. This game, when another friendly character uses call in help from the Venomverse and succeeds, they may instead choose to place Venom Groot from this card. He's scored each time. Then he's got a special damage power, fly traps, and vine snares. When an opposing character is placed within 4 squares of Venom Groot, choose one, modify that character's attack -1 this turn, -2 this turn, or after resolutions, deal that character 1 penetrating damage. If that character occupies printed hindering terrain, choose both. Go ahead.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this piece, and I don't know that I have really anything to add to it. There are two pieces from this set that have been talked to death. One of them we haven't gotten to yet. The other one's Venom Groot. And Venom Groot is like he's got the Valeria effect. Only it's better because he doesn't even require line of fire. It just happens. And he's not unique. You can play many of him. You can carry him around with you. You can't equip him with the spin ring because he's tiny. So I guess that is something. These are all things that have been said about him before, and I guess that's the point that I'm driving towards. For 35 points, he is incredibly good, and he would be incredibly good if he didn't have that power because he's still a stealthy poisoner with decent output. And of course, he's well protected with being tiny, so he's hard to shoot. He's got toughness, and he's got plasticity and shape change. He's locking people down. He's poisoning them. He's doing damage. But the thing that's really meaningful here is that if people get knocked back, they're taking a ton of penetrating. If they get TK'd, they're taking a bunch of penetrating. If they get placed or anything else, they're taking a bunch of penetrating. You could just play 3 of him, and you've barely got more than 100 points on your team. And as soon as anyone carries anyone nearby, they're all taking 3 penetrating damage. If you knock anybody back 3 squares, they take 9 penetrating damage. It is absolutely insane what you can get in terms of free damage on this guy. Everyone's talking about it. It's super broken. I don't love it, but how could I not give it a thumbs up? It's incredibly playable.
100% agree. I may or may not already have 3. One of us is going to be that crazy guy.
One of us has to be.
Yeah. All right, next up, Venom Ghost Spider. 5 range, 70 points, Celebrity, Codex, Monster, Spider-Man family keywords. Ignores elevating, hindering for movement. Calling help from the Venomverse. Symbiote trait. We march to the same beat. Giant Reach 3. If Venom Ghost Spider has no action tokens, she has Battle Fury. If she has exactly 1 action token, she can use Flurry. If she has 2 action tokens, she can use Stealth. This is cool. Not going to use it. 70 points is not an incredibly high point value. The Giant Reach is really cool. I mean, I want to be nicer, but it's a thumbs down for me for competitive.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like we've seen an awful lot of very small variations on the same flavor, and at a certain point, it all starts to taste the same, and she's a good example thereof. For 70 points, I just feel like there's better. Could be wrong. Maybe it's just late, but not feeling it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're next up to the Red Goblin, and we tried to make an opinion, and then we didn't know what so we're going to make our former actual opinion now. So the Red Goblin comes in at either 110 or 50 points, or he's a secret identity for Norman Osborn. You can either equip either the Carnage symbiote or the Pumpkin Bombs. If you paid 110 points, you get both. So you equip the Carnage symbiote if you didn't get the...
Yeah, exactly.
That's Norman Osborn, and the Carnage symbiote is a second trait, Steal Energy. Opposing characters with the Spider-Man family keyword decrease their D6 rolls for super senses by -1. A special defense power symbiote armor on his first 4 clicks of the 110 or the first click of the 50. Invulnerability, Red Goblin can reduce penetrating damage. And his special damage power, everyone you ever loved, Parker. Everyone you ever loved, Parker. They're all dead. Exploit weakness. When I can't do a Willem Dafoe. I cannot do Willem Dafoe. When Red Goblin KOs an opposing character, after resolutions, opposing characters that share a keyword with the KO'd character modify combat values -1 until your next turn. So now we can form a full opinion on Red Goblin now that we know the Carnage symbiote. What do you think, Tom?
True enough. I don't know where the points are going. I don't understand how it's worth this. It's very strange. This is one of the few pieces that not only will I give a thumbs down to, but I would be willing to say is pretty much bad. Not unplayable, but really subpar within the standards of this very high standard set. Like, I've given a lot of thumbs down to pieces that probably don't deserve it in the cosmic scheme of is this good? It just, they're not playable and competitive. This is not playable and competitive, and I think it's underwhelming under any circumstance. So, kind of bad. No, pretty bad.
Yeah, this character looks cooler than he is.
Oh, yeah.
Though I gotta say, as a secret identity to Norman Osborn, he sits a little higher for me. Bring him in with a Carnage symbiote. It's just a shame that he got 2 damage with that super strength.
It's very strange to me.
So weird. All right. Next up, the Spirit Spider. 5 range with 2 targets, Mystics and Spider-Man team ability. He's 90 points with the Mystical and Spider-Man family keywords. He ignores elevated and hindering from movement. He's got improved targeting. He can shoot while in base. Next, the Spirit of Peter lives. When another friendly character with the Spider-Man family keyword is KO'd by an opponent's attack, choose a standard power on that character's card and note it. This game, Spirit Spider can use the noted power. Spirit Senses, Super Senses, when Spirit Spider uses it and succeeds, after resolutions, deal the attacking character 1 penetrating damage.
So annoying.
And special attack power, Penance Webs, Penetrating Psychic Blast, Incapacitate is free. When Spirit Spider uses it, after resolutions, deal 1 penetrating damage to each hit character that had attacked a friendly character since your last turn. So the Spirit Spider here, everything reads as super obnoxious if it works. Right? Like, you hit him, okay, you take some penetrating damage. Did you miss him? You take some penetrating damage.
Right.
But, of course, you only take the penetrating damage on the miss if it's caused by the super senses. So, the problem is it's a 90-point dial, and it's a hard investment to make it 90 points, I think. It reads so good, and it reads so interestingly, but the investment is not there. If they had like a 45-point version like we had with the Venom Spider-Man, or the Venom Doctor Strange, sorry, I'd be a little bit more enticed.
Strange,
Give me a bargain version of this, and I'm game. But I'm not buying this one.
Yeah, I would agree. Not worth 90 points to me at all. It's a bit of a thumbs down. There are 100 sources of penetrating damage. This is the sort of piece that you play against in sealed, and it just starts to get so frustrating. You're like, no matter what they do, you're like, oh, so I assume I take penetrating damage now?
Yeah.
Cap with penetrating damage, Mystics for penetrating damage, Super Senses for penetrating damage. It's all penetrating, but I don't like pieces that get better when your own force is getting KO'd. And I don't like pieces that are 6 clicks deep for 90 points and just don't justify their inclusion on your team.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Spider-Man 2099. This is going to wrap up the super rare slot. So he comes in at either 100 or 50 points. For 50 points, you get the charge dial. So he's 4 range Spider-Man, 100 or 50, like I said. Exiles, Future Scientist, Spider-Man family keywords. He has the Dimensional Travel Watch to start. And then his special movement power. I've never done anything like this before in my life. Knockback. When Spider-Man 2099 is given a move action and moves 5 squares or less after resolutions, he can use Flurry at no cost. Where do you sit on Spider-Man 2099?
I mean, I have to give him a thumbs down. I really like him. I like the trifecta of the Dimensional Watch pieces that can move 5 squares and then do something, and his certainly is the best one. Moves 5 squares and then Flurry, and has knockback. That's pretty cool. Also love the fact that it's coupled with blades for some extra oomph, and Outwit is always helpful, and I love to see a printed 19 defense. That's always sweet, and Super Senses is good. Even at 50 points, I kind of like the fact that you can perplex up your defense, so you're up to a 19 or a 21 up close. Like, that's pretty obnoxious. But nevertheless, you're still 50 points for 4 damage to a KO, and it just isn't worth it. So I'm afraid he's too easy to take out for me to give him a glowing endorsement. Even if I love the sculpt, I kind of like the character. I remember Peter David doing a run on this, and I'm a big Peter David fan. But I'm afraid that he's not there. He is just not quite there.
I'm kind of there with you. It's like, not quite, but like him nonetheless. Before we're entering the chase slot. If you're watching us live and you have any questions for the end of this show, in the chat, put question in front of whatever your question is in big capital letters so we can catch it. But we're wrapping this up soon. All right. Yeah. So next up, we enter the chase slot. Now, as a heads up, all of these chases do something that really mess with keywords. And that's just so much value added to what we're about to read. So just a heads up. There's a lot to say about these guys. We're going to start with Gwen of Arc. Spider-Man team ability, 60 points, has the Armor, Past, Soldier, and Spider-Man family keywords, ignores characters, and elevated for movement. My kind of allies, when establishing theme teams, characters on your starting force with the Armor keyword gain the Spider-Man family keyword. They're all going to have this My Kind of Allies for a different keyword. So I'm just going to read out the keyword and for the
They also
future
all
ones.
have Call and Help from the Spider-Verse, so
They
we
do.
don't have to go over that.
Yep. And then her next one is Martyred by Bishop Osborn. When Gwen of Arc is KO'd by an opponent's attack, after resolutions heal all other friendly characters equal to the damage she was dealt. Her special damage power on her first 3 clicks, Rally for Victory. Leadership, when Gwen of Arc uses it and succeeds when a friendly character hits this turn, after resolutions, remove an action token from them. So, this is the start of something beautiful and monstrous at the same time. Now, when she's making armor gain Spider-Man family, one thing to note is that this actually, I think, bulks up the strength of the Spider-Man family keyword on its own, as opposed to armor. Now, there are some really cool characters with armor. I mean, all of the characters named Iron Man generally have it. We've just got some really interesting Doctor Dooms that have the armor keyword. So I think this is one of the 2 least scary keywords that are being messed with right now, which puts her at a thumbs sideways, but leaning towards up, because at any point a character with the armor keyword can suddenly join some nasty keywords with the inclusion of Gwen of Arc. And, her healing thing, when she's KO'd and she suddenly heals your entire team, which is pretty bonkers in itself. She's minorly protected with Impervious to start, so there's a whole lot of ifs, ands, or buts. Ultimately, the keyword cheating is a big proponent of her for only 60 points, with leadership as well. So, and worth noting too, her extra effect on a leadership when she succeeds, and then you remove an action token if you make a hit. That is insane, because you will basically, if you make an attack, the first thing that happens before resolutions is your action token gets added. Then this effect occurs, and that action token is now gone. So if they're indomitable and you take a second action token, you're back down to 1. You're fine. You will take pushing damage if you're not indomitable, so be careful with that. Otherwise, though, that is super potent, if you ask me. I've overtalked. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things to get out of the way right away. First of all, if anyone happens to not be aware, all the chases are original creations.
Yes.
So they're very much paralleled with the chases from the Invincible Iron Man set from back in the day. At least those were based on covers.
Yeah.
This is based on nothing. This is just straight up creativity in which they took a different character from the Spider-Verse and created some historical version of them. So that's cute and a neat little thing. I hope that they do more of that with the chase themes in the future. I think it's really cool. And usually, I've got it doesn't work 100% of the time, but a mostly foolproof way of figuring out what the worst chase of any given set is. It's based on whichever one comes in my case. And so that's what happened in this case. So, I got my Gwen of Arc, the worst chase of them all. But none of them are bad. I'm going to skip my thumbs for all the chases because there's no point. They're all thumbs up pieces because just by nature, they do so much to bring together theme teams and open up the ability to create more interesting theme combinations. Not all of them are good pieces in their own right, and we will talk about them as they go, but at any given moment, they could release a really game-breaking, awesome piece, and if it happens to have the armor keyword, then this is a great way to get them onto a theme team with a lot more options than they might otherwise have, and turns their generic theme team named. As for the piece itself, I think she is the most underwhelming for 60 points. I'm not a big fan of that healing power because I think that they'll just target her first and take her out, and she's going to kind of want to be on the front line anyway. Like, there's no point trying to save her because she's a close combat piece, so they're probably not going to have too much trouble targeting her and KOing her, so I'm not too worried about the healing thing. Leadership thing is good, as Jason already pointed out. Otherwise, she's respectable for 60 points, but frankly, not fantastic. What she really is doing is the keyword bending thing, and armor's not one of the good ones.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up, Leonardo Venom. 4 range, 2 targets, shield team ability. Comes in at either 90 or 60 points. Codex, Monster, Past, Shield, Scientist, and Spider-Man family keywords. His My Kinda Allies. Scientist. Calling help from the Venomverse. And then the Venovian Man. Venuvian.
So stupid.
Flurry.
What is Vitruvian?
Vitruvian is, yeah. That's why I went with the Venuvian. Flurry,
Sure.
Plasticity, and Shape Change. When Leonardo da Venom makes an attack roll of doubles and hits, choose one. The attack is a critical hit, or, after resolutions, unequip all equipment equipped to a hit target. His special damage power, which he has on his first 4 clicks, or the first 2 of the 60-point version, the smartest man of the age, Outwit and Perplex. When an opposing character uses Outwit or Perplex, their maximum range is 4. What do you think of Leonardo da Venom?
Well, I got to be honest. Unpopular opinion, but I don't think he's that fantastic for the points. His dial is so short that he does a lot of cool things, but I'm afraid he's going to get KO'd very quickly. I do like the disruption of the Outwit Perplex with the maximum range 4. It's probably my favorite thing about it, but I wonder to some extent just how much mileage you really get out of it. If he's on the front line, I think that he's a liability. If he's not on the front line, I think he's a waste of points. I do love the fact that he brings together scientist themes. That's really what this is all about. So, frankly, he's a 60-point figure that is there to really be the glue that holds together an interesting version of a scientist name theme teams combined with some Spider Family shenanigans and stuff. So I, again, think he's a thumbs up figure, but I do think that he's a bit of a liability just for sheer dial length. I don't know. Am I wrong? I think you might be more up on him than I am.
You're not wrong about the dial length. The dial length is the uncomfortable part for me too. Is every time I include him on my team, it's like, okay, what am I going to do with him? I'm going to use him as a shield team ability in the back and make some of my ranges pretty big. That said, we're going to talk about another figure later. Scientist has a lot of synergy with another keyword that we're going to talk about later. And sometimes those keywords don't necessarily cross properly. So, like, there will be a scientist who's really good with robots, and they don't, like, this scientist and this scientist doesn't have the robot keyword. You get a little upset about that. And 2 of these characters are going to help fix things like that. Scientist is also the biggest of the keywords, like as far as availability of options. If you go in HC Realms right now, use the advanced search, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but like 305 options come up when you look at modern age scientists. Now, some of those are a little off because their search option does still include some sets that were recently rotated. But we're not talking about losing 100 with there. We're talking about maybe losing 20 at most, we'll say. So, like, that's still like 280. We'll even go a little bit generous and go 250 possible options of the scientist keyword that Leonardo da Venom now makes a named theme with. And they range from, like, little guys that are super supporty to huge guys like Lex Luthor. And I'm talking about the superhero Luthor cape thing. So there's a lot of potential as far as that's concerned. That said, I don't disagree with your assessment that he needs some protection. Now, he is susceptible to outwit, but you're forcing your opponent within 4 squares of him to get that outwit. And he does, like, for 60 points with Charge Flurry, he's got a lot of meat to what he can do as well. And the shape change does protect him a little. I do wish the super sensitive was front loaded, to be brutally honest, if I was to change anything. It's still a thumbs up, I think, with all that aside.
Oh, sure.
Well, all right. Wiki Miles West is next. 6 range, 2 targets, police and Spider-Man team abilities. He comes in at 60 points. Past police and Spider-Man family. He ignores elevated and hindering for movement. His allies are police. Calling help from the Spider-Verse. Fastest webs in the West. Miles West and adjacent friendly characters can use shape change, but only for range attacks. Oh, shucks. When Miles West or an adjacent friendly character uses shape change and succeed, after resolutions, give the attacker a webbed gun token. No guns in my town is the next trait. Characters with a webbed gun token can't make range attacks and have power remove all webbed gun tokens from this character, protected pulse wave. Sometimes a character, when he works, is the most obnoxious thing you've ever come across. And this is a prime example of that. He will give your friendly character shape change at range. A guy who wants to make a range attack is going to get into a shape change or get shape changed. He's going to get stuck with a web token, and then he's going to want to shoot next turn, and he can't. That is annoying. That alone is really great. And they're forced to take another power action after the fact. The police keyword right now is a little shallow. As far as, like, possible options are like, oh my god, it makes this character great again. There's not a lot. Though, Earth X Luke Cage.
But there is a Batman Prime.
There is yeah.
To some extent, I don't know what else there needs to be.
No, I mean, but he already has the Justice League and the Doctor Fate's helping him out, right? Like, so, but we I think we also
Certainly,
discussed
yeah.
the possibility of using this with another one of the chases and just
Yeah.
potential. There is so much trash that you can just put together. Like, sorry, when I say trash, I mean like so much monstrously good figures that you can now put together on a team that you have no business being together on. And that Batman is a prime example of a couple of things. It's just there's so much going
Literally
on.
a prime example.
Yeah, it's a prime example. So yes,
Yeah.
you're right. He does have the police keyword. You know what? Go ahead, because I completely forgot that the Batman had the police keyword. So you can go ahead and carry on.
It is pretty much him. Like, what else can I say? Like, there are others, and certainly it's good. I think that the best way to use it is to try to get shenanigans with a different Spider-Man family welcomer. A few different flavors of that to your own personal taste. I think Miles is very good at bringing Batman Prime into the fold of Spider-Man family members. Otherwise, I also just think that, like you said, I think that he's actually really good at being just a frustrating piece that makes it very difficult to target your people, and then even more difficult to continue targeting them if any of them worked in the first place. They give shape change to everybody, and then if any of them succeed, then they got nothing. So Miles is one of the better ones in my opinion, just because he is, I think, a pretty good 60-point investment in and of himself for frustration's sake, as long as someone else is doing more of the offense work. But I think there are opportunities within both Spider-Man family and police and other etc., depending upon how you build, to make that work.
I mean, even, and I'm just want to add one last thing because I just thought about this. Even if you're not bringing in a police character, and let's say you use another character that could potentially, I don't know, include a Skrull somehow. We'll talk about that in a second. In addition to this, all of a sudden you can copy that Skrull team ability. Now it's shape changes on a 4, 5, or 6. Don't shoot this team if that's the case.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
but he also, like, it's funny because he pairs well with Batman Prime, but he also is Batman Prime's worst nightmare on the other side of the map for that very reason.
Yeah,
it really slows down the deployment.
All right. So next up, the Spider Hammereye. I love this. I love everything about that. Spider-Man team ability, 60 points. Animal, martial artist, past Spider-Man family, and warrior. He ignores elevated and hindering for movement. His allies are martial artists. It's Cronin hunting season. Blaze Claw's Fangs, at the beginning of the game, choose an opposing character or team ability. Free. Make a close attack, but only to target the chosen character or a character using the chosen team ability. Calling help from the Spider-Verse. And then a special defense power on his first 4 clicks. Bushipto Honor. Combat reflexes. If Spider Hammereye is adjacent to exactly one opposing character and neither is adjacent to any other characters can't be moved or placed adjacent to either of them and can't target either of them. So kind of start a fight in the middle of the map and everybody's going, go, go, go. What do you think of the Spider Hammereye?
He's great. Martial artist is okay. Martial artist has been better in the past than it is at this particular moment. It's another Batman Prime, though. So, I mean, that's another way of getting him on your team.
Yep.
Other than that, I mean, there are a lot of Batman family people who are martial artists and a bunch of the usual suspects, the Shifting Focus Elektra, Black Widows of various sorts, and yada yada. So nothing to be sneezed at necessarily, although not the Black Widow. Not the super good Black Widow. No. I don't think. She's a martial artist.
I think most of those ones ended up with Avengers and Spy, and that's about it. I have to double check though.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, it's an okay one, but it's not one of the best ones. I think he is one of the better pieces. Certainly, the Bushipto Honor is
it's a bad
really
pun.
Good. Really good at isolating the piece, and kind of taking somebody out of the fight and forcing them to deal with them alone. Especially good for cluster breaking. I like the idea of putting him with spin ring or just anyone with a spin ring on them so they can pull somebody away from their group of people and then lock them down with Bushipto. And the fact that they can't target them, other characters can't be moved or placed adjacent, and can't target them means that they're not getting perplexed, they're not getting probed, they're not getting targeted at all, and that can really kind of mess up your some teams and the way in which they deploy them. Like, I mean, this is a great one to use against a Batman Prime team who wants to be surrounded by his enhancers and everything, yada yada yada. So if you can get him over there and then pull Batman Prime to next to Hammereye, then you've really kind of disrupted their whole tempo of their team. So I think there's a lot of potential here, and it is just a generally pretty good piece for 60 points. It's also good for keeping Hammereye himself alive, as long as he's adjacent but to one person, then no one else is targeting Hammereye. So it's a pretty decent little defensive power for that fact alone. Good candidate for plasticity too, but anyway.
Yeah. And another thing too is, like, if the target that you're one-on-oneing is got any of the chosen things that you, or any of the things you picked at the beginning of the game, you're making 2 attacks with them, effectively flurry, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's really, really good. I'm gonna have to do another deep dive on the martial arts. I did do a quick check though. The Black Widow, none of the Black Widows in the Black Widow movie set have martial artists. Thank God.
Prime one does though. The Prime one was pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, I don't want to go here.
This is the other one. Remember how I said there were 2 pieces that have been talked about too much? Here we go.
Spider-Man 1776. 4 range, Spider-Man team ability. He's playable at either 75 or 50 points. The first stop click that you see here, oh, sorry, yes, spoiler alert, that's a stop click, is going to be our break line there. Exiles, past, politician, soldier, Spider-Man family keyword. Ignores elevated and hindering for movement. His allies are soldiers. A keyword that's always kind of been around. Calling help from the Spider-Verse. The general that founded a nation is his 3rd trait. Oh, God, I don't want to. Leadership, super senses. Opposing forces have an action total of -1, minimum 2. Opposing characters within 6 squares can't use leadership or autonomous. And his special defense power is stop, combat, reflexes, and toughness. I don't want to even go with the flavor of the name. We shall not allow the British to rule us. No, you're not fun. No. I mean, undeniably a double thumbs up character as far as quality in the competitive metagame. But this is problematic for a number of reasons. One of which is, in the competitive game, we like to use leadership to get that extra action. This character is not unique, and people have already kind of hypothesized soldier keyword teams that will have 4 characters, 2 of them Spider-Man 1776 and the other 2 Captain. This Captain Marvel seems to be a bit of a problem, if you ask me.
And that's the least of it, right? There's so much more you can do.
Absolutely. And now your opponent is -2 to their action total. And you got to kill this guy with a stop click with traded super senses, traded leadership, and all these brand new autonomous guys we just got. If they're too close to this guy, aren't so autonomous anymore. I hate everything about him in the fact that he is just so good. And he stands for everything I hate when things get to a certain level of competitive play. And it's just like, I just want to play Heroclix, man. And now I gonna have a bit of a harder time doing it.
Right.
But yeah, 2 thumbs up, really solid quality character as far as like competitive game is concerned. Anything you want to add there, Tom?
No, I can't really get excited about him for the same reasons that you can't. I think that it is kind of toxic. Just know that it's out there, no matter what team you're building in the near future, especially for Worlds where ownership is not required. Then make sure that you are ready to deploy a team with 2 actions. It sounds pathetic, but it's the world we live in now, and if you can't do it, then you're going to lose, because pairs of these guys will see play. It is worth 100 points to take that many actions away from your opponents, and for the points, you're getting pretty decent little perplexing charge pieces. So, still worth it, and leadership, of course. Definitely decent pieces and super tempo disruption. So his mere existence changes the game until such time as he gets watch listed, and I certainly hope he will be. And so we're in a different game of Heroclix now.
Yeah. To kind of go at game design there, this should have been a unique modifier. or he should have been a unique character. Sure. I feel like there's an oversight there. All right, next up, Spider Pharaoh. 6 range Spider-Man team ability, 60 points. It's common thread there. Indomitable. Past ruler Spider-Man family. This one gives ruler keywords to Spider-Man family keyword. Calling help from the Spider-Verse, of course. Special movement power, phasing teleport, passenger 3. Special damage power, queen of all the light that light touches. Empower, enhancement, leadership, probability control. Tom, what do you think of the Spider Pharaoh?
Probably the best dial of all of them. And ruler being arguably one of the best keywords as well makes this overall one of the best chases. 1776 breaks the game, so you really can't top that. And I would argue that Steampunk Penny, who we haven't talked about yet, is even more influential from a pure keyword manipulation perspective just due to the sheer tonnage of low point robots. More on that later. But Spider Pharaoh, rulers are real good. It's a real powerful thing, and giving some theme probs onto that team is absolutely worth it. Plus the fact that she's just a dynamite dial for 60 points, phasing around, carrying everybody with the enhancement and the empower, backed up with leadership and prob control, along with just outstanding stats. She's an 11-4 with precision strike, completely a worthwhile build, and good throughout her whole dial. She doesn't have a bad click, even though some are better than others. So I think that she's the best dial. I can't say she's the best chase, but I can say she's the best dial.
100% agree. 100% agree. All right, next up, the Spider Viking. Spider-Man team ability, 60 points, aquatic, indomitable, Asgardian, past, pirate, Spider-Man family, and warrior keywords. Ignores characters in hindering for movement. My kind of allies with pirates or warriors. Plunder for my web, colossal stamina, and steel energy. When Spider Viking KOs an opposing character and an equipment is dropped, after resolutions, he may equip it. He would unequip any current equipment to do so. I'll call help from the Spider-Verse. And then special defense power, Berserker Rage, toughness. Spider Viking takes a maximum of 1 damage from range attacks. So where this guy kind of stands is the warrior keyword has some surprisingly good things. One of the things that's most talked about, Eddie Guerrero. Worth noting too, because you give Eddie Guerrero the Spider-Man family keyword, nothing's better than giving Eddie Guerrero an action and he has an action token now. Then the next turn, Spider Viking charges, calls in help from the Spider-Verse, and then 3 amigos somebody out of nowhere. Like it feels so good. I think the biggest problem that Spider Viking has is he is such a close combat character that you really have to get him there. He doesn't do it as that well. He doesn't shoot, so he gets less appealing. He is such a fighter, but he is a fighter with colossal stamina and steel energy. Not gonna poo-poo that. So everything about him feels really good, and his keyword really kind of goes really well with the way he works. Another few other notable warriors will include also one of these has a soldier as well. Super Skrull, and Starfire and Eddie Guerrero are really up there warriors that. If you include with the Spider Viking and some other things, you can really get some really some cool synergies going. What do you think, Tom?
Black Leopard too.
Yeah, Black Leopard.
Worth a mention. The only thing I would add to that is that I wish that his defense power was protected from outwit, since that is sort of magnifying the problem that you've already explained. That because he's entirely close combat focused. The hope is that his defense power will at least make him survive the trip across the map, but without the outwit protection, that is less likely. I don't think he's bad, but he is on the lower side of the chases for playability.
100, yeah, agree with that. All right, and to wrap it all up, Steampunk Penny comes in at either 65 or 45, following none of the rules that have been established by these chases, I want to point out.
Weird, right?
Right? 5 range Spider-Man family team ability, past, robot, scientist, and Spider-Man family keyword. Ignores characters and elevated for movement. Her allies are robots. Calling help from the Spider-Verse. And then Engineered Solutions is her special damage power. She has her first 4 clicks of the 65-point version. or the first 2 clicks of her 45-point version. Perplex, unique modifier. When Steampunk Penny uses Perplex to target another friendly character with a Spider-Man family keyword and doesn't choose damage, you may roll a d6 and instead modify the chosen value by half the result. So what do you think of Steampunk Penny, Tom?
I think she's the best. I mean, 1776 is objectively the best because he breaks the game. Once you've set aside breaking the game, Spider Pharaoh has the best dial, but I think Steampunk Penny is the best overall. Robots are amazing. There are so many cheap robots. Your Brainiacs, your Superman robots, your Doom bots. There's so many cheap options. Tri-Sentinel is incredible. All of the Danger Room pieces. Like Steampunk Penny at 45 points can practically be dropped into existing robot teams with almost no modification, and just add theme prob to them, and a really hyper good Perplex, which is absolutely worth it. The fact that she's also the cheapest is certainly worth noting. I mean, if you're not counting Marvela, who also is insane. And I don't see any particular reason to play her at 65. I mean, it makes her more aggressive, but I'm okay with the lack of movement attack at 45, considering I'm mostly playing her for the Superplex. And the fact that she's pulling together the team. I want as many points as possible to fill it with my cool robots. So I think that she is probably if you set aside the game breakingness of 1776, she doesn't have the best dial, but I think that she is the most useful one to have in your toolbox.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Where the potential with robots, I think, leads to more fun options than a lot of what we have. And there's a lot of really interesting robots, and there's a lot of synergies already exist, starting to kind of come together in robots these days. So Steampunk Penny definitely sits up there. What I do love about the Perplex is there's no downside to it. If you're not doing the damage, you roll a die. You either get 1 or 2 or 3. You actually have a better chance of not getting 1 than getting 1. So just go for it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up the set. Man, we did it, Tom. It's only 20 after 12, eh?
Yeah. 70 pieces and 7 pieces of equipment. That's a lot of talking.
We did it. And it looks like we only have the one question on the Facebook, so I'm going to pull that up. But overall, impression of the set.
Whoa, look at me, I'm a Spider-Man set. The impression of the set, Joe. Yeah, it's getting late.
It's getting late. You thought that was funny.
Yeah, no, I did not. In my own defense, just because I didn't mean I think it was funny. I think that this set is a bomb for sealed because there's a lot of dice rolling, and almost every piece is good. I think that it contributes quite a number of interesting things to the meta, insofar as it gives us a bunch of new special objects, it gives us a bunch of usable pieces, and some interesting new effects especially around the keyword manipulation. I think it's a very good set. I almost think they went a little overboard with the keyword manipulation, and it may become a bit too much. And I think that both Venom Groot and 1776 are too good. And because they're too good, then they may cause some disruption in the game. But to be fair, we've seen worse as far as sets that have given too much good to the game. And the fact that there's good stuff in this set, especially good stuff at every bracket of rarity, it makes it a fun one to collect because you don't have to invest a whole lot of money to get some really solid pieces, and you get a bunch of equipment and stuff. It's quite a strong set. They're continuing their trend of some really strong Marvel sets specifically, and I think that this is the latest.
Yeah, and it's weird because the strength isn't just outright, oh my god, punch you in the face strength. It's a little bit more subtle than that. It's more utility strength than
nuance.
Yeah. Than sledgehammer strength. But I've been such a filthmonger with some of the teams I've come up with, just poking the bear with the keyword manipulation. It's
right, and unfortunately, like, I hate to say it, but it's not that hard to just come up with silly broken things. There's so much silly broken stuff that you just wonder, well, what does it even mean anymore? The Critical Clicks guys also did a set review in which they were talking about Venom Groot, and Isaac made a point that was like, it may not even see play. Like, it's so broken, and it still may not see play if it doesn't have to be the right thing, because there is so much that is so good.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that's good for the game to just flood the market with awesome. But I know I'm feeling a little drowned.
When everything's overpowered, nothing's overpowered. Yeah.
Fair.
All right. So the one question we got on the socials, it comes from Michael Fedor, our alpha patron. He wants to know. Okay, sorry. I'm going to read this as written. Okay, so I presume that everyone who is smart enough to invest $300 on the secondary market for figure number 62, Captain Venom, which sadly is not me, are now licking their chops with the new set, a Spider-Man Venom set. Monsters everywhere. How much versatility does Captain Venom have, and does this now shift the meta away from cosmic and mystical? Just kind of long answer. That is one thing I think we failed to mention a lot of as far as that set review was concerned. There were a lot of characters with monster keyword. It's already been pretty strong with the inclusion of Captain Venom. There's tools, but I don't think anything is just outright, this has got to be in every monster team. Although Null is a monster, so...
Yep.
So there's some really good keynote ones. I don't think... I think we're going to see a world where Cosmic and Mystical exist alongside the Spider-Man family, which is going to be every other generic keyword team now.
Right.
Go ahead.
Interesting, like... Michael's point is well made that, like, you know, when you're thinking about those who got the Venom, I just pulled mine, so what can I say? The Cap Venom, what makes him so viable on a monster theme team is the fact that he's turning that otherwise generic theme into a name theme, right? Like, that's fundamentally why he's good, and this set includes a ton of monsters. But the set also includes a ton of pieces that do the exact same thing for celebrity and armor and warrior and soldier and ruler and robot and others that I'm forgetting. So I guess that to Michael's point, yes, this set does give us a lot of good monsters that will have the opportunity to get played with that Cap Venom to go to do some serious work. But the effect will be somewhat muted by the fact that the set itself is already doing that for so many other keywords that are already filled with good stuff. So it gets a little bit leveled out. So this is not going to be remembered necessarily as the set where monsters took over. I don't think. I think it's more like this is just the set where keywords got completely bananas.
Yep. I'm just currently goofing around with memes that I'm going to send out on our way out.
By all means. By all means.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Spaceman one. They're all something. They always have been.
Yeah.
All right. That said, if we got nothing else, I think we should call it a night because it's past midnight and the kids are back to waking up in the morning. So
agreed.
So we'll kind of wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching now live in the archives. I want to thank our sponsors over at MajesticCCG.com. Longtime sponsors. Check out MajesticCCG.com. And click on the Apex Insiders. Join the Apex Insiders. $3 a month gets you access to the big brains in the games of Heroclix. Probably those guys are probably going to be a little smarter than us because they've got more sleep than us. But check it out. It's a really good source. It's also a great place to get updates on tournaments that are ongoing or big events. They were really Johnny on the spot as far as keeping updates when Rock Nationals was going on. So. They had like the breakdown of the undefeated teams at the end of the Swiss. So, yeah, MajesticCCG.com. Check it out. It's a great website to go to, and great brains help write for that site. As well, if you want to support us, check us out at Patreon.com/Heroclix. Any level of support is much appreciated. Helps go a long way towards keeping us smiling and keeping us in editing software. So that said, thank you, Tom. Thank you guys, and get some Spider-Man stuff on that table, because you're gonna need some practice with this. Come up with the filth. Be a filth monger. Come up with some really neat theme teams that are all Spider-Man family, And get some Spider-Man family, because Spider-Man family will make your team Spider-Man family. Have a good night, everybody.